All right. Will the meeting of Planning and Zoning Commission for Wednesday, April 3rd, 2024, please come to order. This evening's meeting will be a virtual planning and zoning meeting hosted by Zoom. Can we mute? Thank you.
Yep, I'm getting him. Sorry.
During this meeting, our procedures will be as follows. 1, when you first enter the Zoom meeting, you'll be in a virtual waiting room until the meeting host admits you. 2, please be aware that your camera, if you have one, and your microphone may be muted by the meeting host when you enter the meeting. You can turn on your camera at any time.
Let's use Andrews for a moment.
Yeah,
For
we
sound.
don't need 3 audios.
Hold on.
There we go.
You can turn on your camera at any time so that you can be seen by others if you choose to. In order to run an efficient and orderly meeting in this virtual environment, unless stated otherwise by the meeting chairman during the meeting host may keep everyone other than the commission members muted. You will still be able to hear everything said by the commission members, even if you're muted and or your camera is not on. There will be opportunity for public comment during public hearings, at which time public participants will be unmuted. 3, during the public hearing, the applicant will be invited to present the application, explaining to the commission and others present what is being requested. The meeting host will share all related documents on the screen as needed. In addition, all applications and supporting materials for each application on the agenda have been available through the public meeting calendar page of the town website, www.guilfordct.gov, and also through a direct link on the planning and zoning page. 4, comments of town agencies will be discussed as applicable to the application. There will be clarifying questions from the commissioners, and the town planner will direct our attention to any additional items pertinent to the application. 5, after all commissioner questions are exhausted, those who wish to speak in support or in opposition to the application will be asked to come forward, state their name and address for the record, and make a statement. 6, the applicant will then have an opportunity to address any questions or concerns raised by the public or commissioners. 7, once the public hearing is closed, the applicant is free to leave or remain for the balance of the public hearing and the regular meeting, during which the commission will try to reach a decision on each application. Each applicant will be notified in writing as to the decision of this commission and has a right to appeal to Superior Court if desired. 8, decisions of this meeting are available the day after the meeting by calling the Planning and Zoning Department at 203-453-8039 or by emailing planning.zoning@guilfordct.gov after 9 a.m. 9, after all actions taken on applications tonight by the commission will be by roll call. All commissioners and staff will identify themselves for the record before speaking. Seated this evening, the following members, so please identify themselves. Roger Joyce.
Here.
Kevin Clark.
Here.
Bill Freeman.
Here.
Ted Sands.
Here.
Philip Johnson.
Here.
Sean Cosgrove.
He is not here.
Not here. And I am Scott Edmund, Chair. Alternates present tonight, Larry Rizzolo.
Here.
And Bob Harrington.
Here.
And I don't see Jason Margie. All right.
About Roger.
Roger's a full
Yes.
member.
Roger was first. He got introduced first in the line. Staff present tonight are Ann Hartson, Town Planner. This meeting will be recorded via the Zoom platform and made available on the town website for viewing. Maybe everybody can help me. Between Larry and Bob, who was the last alternate to be seated? Do you remember?
Bob.
I was the last seated.
Yep.
All right. So tonight, Larry Rizzolo, you'll be seated tonight with us.
Good.
All right. We'll just switch over to here. I would entertain them. Do we want to do our introduction here, Ann, first?
Yeah, the commission asked me, Ann Hartson, for the record, Town Planner. The commission asked me to confer with council on a number of questions from last meeting, and I have some follow-up for you very quickly. From Chuck Andres, who's our on-call land use attorney. He says to me, it is the best practice for folks not to abstain. It confuses the record and can be difficult to uphold in court. He said it is valid to abstain from a vote if you have a valid conflict of interest. So, but otherwise his advice is to not abstain. As relates to alternates, his opinion is that if we are in a public hearing, alternates can fully participate and ask questions, but once the public hearing portion of any given item is closed, only seated members should be part of the discussion at that point.
Great.
And
Scott?
then I would just say, for the record, Mr. Chair, since you weren't at the meeting last time, the first four items on the agenda were tabled at the last meeting. So if we could vote and have a motion to untable them all at the same time, then we won't forget to do it as we go forward.
Scott, do you want the legal notice to be read in?
No, yeah, that's not a necessary part of the
Okay.
meeting. All right, so, per Ann's suggestion, do I hear a motion to, untable, is it untable the proper word, Ann? Just
Remove from the table.
remove from
Ye-
the table those, four applications that, were tabled last meeting.
So moved.
Second?
All right, got a motion from Ted. We've got a second from Phil. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you. Motion carries. Do I hear a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Thank you,
Second.
Larry.
Second.
Thank you, Phil, for the second. All in favor to open public hearing?
Aye.
Motion carries once again.
Okay, so
All
Mr.
right.
Chair, the first item on the agenda is 20 Benton's Knoll, map 8, lot 2420, zone R5. The applicant is Aquatic Pool and Spa. The owner is Jane Schulten. This is a modification of the special permit to allow for a new 10 by 12 in-ground pool. I'll give you a little background and then I believe Ms. Schulten is here to speak on the record. This is an application that is coming to you because all of the residents of Benton's Knoll, which is land commonly held between a number of residences, per the original special permit application, all of those applicants, as they make changes to their individual units, have been asked to come back to the Planning and Zoning Commission for approval. I mistakenly in December signed off on a building permit for this property for the pool. Ms. Schulten started the work and then I was alerted by one of the neighbors about this special permit requirement. At that time, I reached out to Ms. Schulten. I asked her to cease and desist construction and to make an application to the Planning and Zoning Commission. And that is why she is before you here tonight.
Thank you. Do we have a site plan or anything to look at?
Yes, I will bring that up. Okay. And we find Ms. Schulten.
So it's the pool's in blue.
Yes.
All right, so this is at the end of the cul-de-sac. Looks like it backs up to Old Station Pad Road.
And the abutting neighbor already has a pool, is that correct?
There are many
So-
pools up in Benton's Knoll. Ms.
Okay.
Schulten, are you still with us?
I am.
Okay, if you'd like to make a quick presentation about what you're asking to do here.
I'm here also on behalf of Ms. Schulten. This is
Okay.
Jeffrey Beatty speaking.
Sure, go. You have the floor, Mr. Beatty.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just very briefly, as the town planner mentioned, this is an application to modify the special permit that was granted back in December of 2010 and has been amended again has been amended in 2014 to permit a pool at Unit 12 in Benton's Knoll amended again in 2015 to permit a pool at Unit 10, Benton's Knoll, and amended again in December of 2017 to permit a pool at Unit 7 of Benton's Knoll. And we're here requesting a modification of the special permit to allow the pool at Unit 20 or number 20 Benton's Knoll, Unit 6. You can see from the site plan that there's a pool in the neighboring parcel. The pool is going to be facing Old Sachem's Head Road. We've submitted, I believe, I don't know if you need to see them right now, but we've submitted 10 letters in support from Ms. Schulten's neighbors. Mr. McGee submitted a memo outlining that he does not have any objection to the construction as it's outside of the upland review area for inland wetlands. And we think that it satisfies the requirements with regard to this commission's consideration for a special permit application, and that it's been already reviewed by the town planner and it's been found to be in conformance with the applicable provisions of your regulations. It's not going to have an adverse impact on the neighboring area for any signs or lights or noise-making devices. It's not going to impact the safety of the streets. It's not going to unduly burden the water supply, the sewage disposal systems, or the stormwater drainage facilities. It won't impact negatively the natural resources or the town's efforts to become a more sustainable and resilient community. And it doesn't conflict with the purposes of your regulations and goals or the objectives, policies, and recommendations of the Plan of Conservation and Development. And it adequately addresses the health, safety, and welfare of the public and the immediate neighborhood. It's a swimming pool that's going to be installed at the property for Ms. Schulten's private use. And given the history of the special permits that have been granted by this commission in the on the neighboring properties, the location of the proposed pool, it's not going to be visible by anybody other than the folks driving on Old Sachem's Head Road. And it's going to have a limited impact on the neighborhood, in the community and the immediate neighbors. And we've got the letters of support from our neighbors. So we would recommend that the commission find that it's in harmony with the proposed use and development of the district and will not tend to detract from or adversely impact the properties in the neighborhood. And for those reasons, we'd ask that you approve this application. We'd be happy to answer any questions.
Yep. Thanks,
I'm
Mr.
an
B.
abutting neighbor who lives directly across the street from this.
Sure, sir. There'll be an opportunity when we'll open it up for public comment.
All right, because I wasn't asked anything about this, and it's a direct insult to my property. Okay.
Yep. Any commissioners that have questions based off of the drawing or Mr. B?
Yes, Larry Rezzolo. Could you zoom in so that the property in question is dominates the screen?
Scott, while we're doing that, quick question. Do the regulations require the pool be fenced?
It's a local / state regs concern. So that would be handled by the building department. Typically, yes, to answer your question, but not part of the purview. Larry, did you have any follow-up question, or you just wanted to see it in a little more detail?
I just wanted to see a little more detail. The purple lines surrounding each property are just demarcating the properties, or are they a physical structure?
They're interior lot lines, but there are no actual, they're unit lot lines, for lack of a better term, but they're not officially lot lines because all of the land is held in joint ownership.
Any other questions from commissioners? And do we have any memos or anything from town staff that were calling
Nope.
attention to anything? Okay. If we don't have any other questions for commissioners, then let's stop sharing and let's give the public opportunity to speak. If you'd like to speak, please raise your hand through the Zoom platform or just raise your hand and wave at me and we'll Following you, I see Mr. Kevin O'Brien. Please state your name and address for the record and then let us know your thoughts.
Kevin O'Brien, 97 Old Sachem Head Road. I live directly opposite the house. One thing that map doesn't show is the elevation of the property. The pool is probably about 20 feet above the street. Ever since this property was clear cut about 13 years ago, and dirt and rocks have been pushed closer to Sachem Head Road, there's a water problem. Right now in Sachem Head, because of runoff, the road's covered with water, half covered. I've had trees fall on my house. I sent pictures of it to Ann in storms because the water changed at this property. The pool is right in front of my house. I come out of my bathroom, my skylights, I can see the second story of the house across from me. I wasn't consulted, the property owners, no one was asked, we haven't heard anything. And it's an eyesore, and I invite anybody to stand on the driveway and look at it and not say, this is an eyesore. The woman who lives there now, no lights, but if a family with teenagers move in, it's right. I mean, it's unbelievable. I had to put up a fence to block it. But that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you. And with concern to the flooding on Old Sachem Head Road, has Janice taken a look at that road at all? Do you recall if she's had any review of that area recently?
It's really hard to, I don't believe she's reviewed it recently. It's very hard to anecdotally attribute flooding, localized flooding to a development. We've had a lot of rain this year, so it may or may not be attributed to this development.
I could say though
that's about all
that
I can say.
anytime there's an inch or more of rain, it gets flooded, and it's been worse over the years. I've been taking pictures of the development the last 13 years. And when they chopped the trees down, it didn't get onto the road, but since they've moved all the dirt towards Sachem Head, the house is built basically on crushed rock and landfill. So they pushed the hill towards there. And instead of the retention thing that was supposed to be there to hold the water is all on the other side and comes onto the road. So
Well,
that's not.
I thought I saw on the plan that there's a detention basin. Is that installed? That's installed, Ann, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but it's not retaining the water. The water is all going between, if to the facing Sachem Head, to the right of the property, there's a river that runs now. And whenever it rains from the hill down between the houses, that was never there.
Okay.
So, I mean, it needs to be looked at, and I'm not, I'm just saying, I've been here, I've had trees fall on my house because that over there, it gets filled with 2 feet of water. It's granite, so there's not a lot of dirt, and these trees are unstable. So my house has been hit twice. My car was totaled. The original person that developed it was supposed to put shading trees between the houses and the street. That's never been done. And
Yeah, that's a subject that's going to get touched on later
Right.
in a different application.
I'm here in the property here.
Yeah, understood.
And I've had to endure this, and the people all around us have had to endure this construction for the last 12 years. And it's unsightly. It really is. And that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and I would make a note to just, bring it to Janet's attention at least and have her take a look.
Yeah, that respectfully, if it's runoff from the development, that's not the city engineer's problem, but we can take a
No,
look at the
certainly.
grading plans.
She can at least
Yeah.
take a look at it. Well, or if Public Works is the more proper one to look at road
Not for
problems, then
private development, but
no, I
we'll
understand.
we'll pull the grading plan and take a look.
Yeah,
Mr.
the,
O'Brien,
town
may
owns
I?
the land. The town owns the land from the street, maybe like 20 feet. So where all the
Yep.
water is piling up is town property. So
Okay, Mr.
Thank you.
O'Brien, may I ask you one question, because I don't see it in the mailings. Did you get a notification of the hearing via certified mail?
no,
No, okay.
no.
Are they
Thank you.
considered adjacent, being
No,
across the street?
He may be outside of the 100-foot radius.
Right.
All right. Well, no, I didn't, and
Okay,
But
thank you.
I've been here for 13 years and I've been observing it, so that's, I'd never get involved in anything, but this is something that's important. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, any others from the public that would want to have some, yep, it looks like iPhone Debbie Coleman. Want to state your name and address for the record, please?
Yeah, this is Greg and Debbie Coleman. We're on 80 Old Sachem's Head Road, and our property borders the home in question, Unit 6. It's asking for a pool. I'll try to do this quick, but a little bit of a historical perspective because we have been dealing with this for 13 years. We've been at every planning and zoning meeting. On April 2nd of 2014, planning and zoning meeting, it was discussed where pools could and could not be considered due to land and infrastructure. Debbie and I specifically have been concerned with the infrastructure surrounding our direct property and raised those concerns in 2014 when pools started becoming a thing back there. At that time, it was actually discussed in that meeting where pools could be. And per the minutes documented, developer Russ Smith, quote from the minutes, units 9 and 8 are built, 14, 3, and 4 are not sufficient in size. Not having a pool on lot 5 is fine. There are probably 6 units that would potentially be applicable. Unit 1, 2, 13, 11, 10, 7, and 12. It was voted that night, condition number 4, that pools would be allowed on those units, 12, 1, 2, 13, 11, 7, and 10. Based on the discussion and documentation from that night, there should not be a pool on Unit 6 or Unit 5. At the very least, pools had to come back to the planning and zoning for consideration, like I understand we're doing now. Apparently, new code updates attempted to override individual decisions, and a building permit was given for the pool in question. And I do thank Ann for putting a hold on that until you guys can hear from us. If you're not aware, the hill on the side in question was backfilled with essentially no support or retaining wall. It's continuously eroding. I did send a photo in to Ann also of the side of the hill, the property line between us and Unit 6, and you can see that eroding right underneath her lawn. There are definite structural problems there. There's a growing vernal pool that sits directly below her house. All the runoff, just like Kevin said, now pushes into this area, and it's been steadily increasing. Same thing, we've been watching this for 13 years. With every major storm, we lose trees in this area. Some have fallen on homes and cars. Kevin told you that. Trees were buried in several feet of fill when this house was built, and water continues to kill off root systems of existing trees that remain on Benton's Knoll property and on town property. The developer, Russ Smith, who, I don't know, apparently did not meet getting this project finished on time, claimed he could not put original landscaping in this area. So it's pretty amazing to us that we can find room for more concrete in a pool, which is essentially denied in 2014. I just really want to also touch on this, and this may be more for later, but there's been a lot of concerns with the town's handling of Benton's Knoll as a whole, in addition to what was handed and communicated to the association. I'm almost done here, I promise. A bond was given back for landscaping that was never fulfilled many years ago, and we're still struggling to get this landscaping completed 15 years later. There also seems to be a lot of loopholes, lack of documentation, process, major staff turnover within the town of Guilford that has certainly added to the issues at hand. Our attorney, Keith Ainsworth, called it a complete failure of town enforcement. And also, since this land was handed over to the association, seemingly healthy trees have been removed by residents in areas that were to be maintained as open space. There was attempts at creating a walking path in an area that was not designed to be such, which is actually where Kevin is talking about. We now have this small river flowing every time we get over an inch of water. So I'm also just curious, and maybe this is a discussion for later, where's the oversight going to come from to ensure that this PRD is maintained properly? So just in closing, our main request is that Unit 6 not be approved for a pool.
Okay.
As per our discussion in 2014. We're also concerned about Unit 5, and we would like it to be confirmed that Unit 5 will not get a pool. If this pool is approved in closing, we believe additional landscaping should be added to help circumvent the water due to increased concrete in addition to privacy, light, and noise pollution concerns. We still would like a confirmation that Unit 5 will not be allowed to have a pool as agreed upon in 2014. We would like the town engineer to get out here and re-inspect this area, the unstable hill that continues to erode, and also the town tree warden to come out here and take a look at these trees, which are just bound to fall next time we have a storm. That's it from me.
Thank you. Just quickly concerning lot 5, since that's not part of the application.
Yep.
Can't really speak to that. But Ann can look, Ann will double check on the existing special permits that are out there for sure. Attorney Beatty, do you have the main concerns that I had from or heard from here is concerning the structure of the pool, potential, whether or not your client would be interested in landscaping. Do you have any responses to those things?
I think structurally the pool is sound. I'm not an engineer, so I can't speak to that, but I have to imagine that it's going to be structurally sound. It's going to comply with the building regulations, and it's got to be inspected by the building department. And with regard to the landscaping, the unit that my client owns was depicted on that site plan with the boundary. So there's a limit to what she can do just on her own within her site. But it sounded to me from the comments from the neighboring property owners that their greater concern was the runoff on the common area of the property, which, you know, my client can advocate and vote in favor of the condo association or the association taking such steps to do it. But it's not solely her decision as to what goes on or gets done on the common areas of that site. She's only the owner exclusively of her unit. The rest she owns with the other unit owners.
Understood. I was asking if there's any plan for landscaping on her property surrounding the pool.
Okay. I'll let Ms. Schulten answer that question.
Yes, definitely. We will do lots of landscaping.
Okay. And with can you help me with the logistics of, did you say that there was a permit in place and everything was getting going? So presumably that means that the pool was designed and that design was reviewed and approved by town staff?
Yes, a building permit was submitted in late fall, early winter. That was signed off on, construction started, and then I asked for the applicant to halt construction as soon as this was brought to my attention, the need for a special permit. I will say that the drawings submitted were just for the pool. There was no additional landscaping on those plans. So if there is a desire for more landscaping, then that would be a condition we need to put on the approval as well.
Commissioners, any follow-up questions at the moment? All right. Would there be any other anyone else from the audience that wants to raise their hand and have either support or against this application?
This is Debbie. I guess I still just have a question in regards to prior decisions in a planning and zoning meeting that really don't hold value. I struggle a little bit with that. So 2014, and, you know, I'm assuming we're going to let Jane's Pool go. And, you know, we've been through a lot with this development. But really number 5 is not intended to have a pool, and that is stated. So I know we're supposed to kind of handle that somewhere else, but where is that avenue? Like, how do we assure something in this town is done and documented correctly?
Well, so
I was a
so
little
go ahead.
unclear, like, was the statement about the appropriateness of pools made by Mr. Smith, or was it deemed by the Planning and Zoning Commission that it would not be allowed? Because
it was both. So we have, I mean, we can pull the minutes up and send them. We have the date of the minutes, and Russ Smith was quoted. We read you his quote, and then it was voted in as a condition where pools would be allowed and where it would not.
Right. It was also a condition that we had to have special permit if anybody wanted to adjust that decision.
Sure.
Right.
But there's a unit
Okay.
that specifically said no for a pool. And again, you know, Jane, fine, but the house behind us should not have a pool. This is specifically stated in minutes and by Russ Smith.
Sure, and if an application came to planning and zoning for a pool on that lot, then that would certainly be part of the decision-making process, is what was
But
stated
it
in
should
that
have happened
special
already.
permit.
but Didn't, so.
So, okay. Because we're talking about lot 6, correct, Dan? I just want to make sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yes,
We
we are.
Um,
It's lot 6, but it's number 20 Benton's Knoll is the actual address.
yeah, understood. But based off of the minutes and everything, it was described as lot 6. Yeah, it looks like we have a hand raised for, it says iPhone. Could you state your name and address to the record, please, and let us know your thoughts?
Yeah, hi, John and Grace Young, 14 Benton's Knoll. It's number 5 on the lot plan. Just want to add in support of what Attorney Bates said and Jane said. And just state the matter, we do not have a permit in for pool in our lot. So at no point is that in question for Jane's pool tonight.
Thanks.
Thank you, John.
All right. Looks like I don't see any other hands raised for public input. If there's no other questions from commissioners, then I would entertain a motion. Well, entertain a motion to close the public hearing on this item.
So moved.
Second?
We got that motion from Bill and the second from Philip. Discussion. Seeing none, we'll go through Larry Rizzolo. You might be muted, Larry.
You'd think I'd know how to run Zoom by now.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Yes, to close. Roger Joyce,
Yes.
Kevin Clark,
Yes.
Ted Sands,
Yes.
Bill Freeman,
Yes.
Philip Johnson,
Yes. What do you mean?
and I will also vote yes to close the public hearing on this item. We will attempt to reach a decision in our regular meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Ann, what do we got next?
If I may, because we have so many items tonight, I might suggest that we make our decisions and do our deliberations after each item.
Okay. Do we have to close public hearing and then reopen again?
You'll have to open it again for the next item.
All right. We don't have to officially close, correct?
You just closed the public hearing on this item.
All right, so let's move on to discussion then. Do I have a motion that someone wants to make related to 20 Benton Knoll? And then we'll have discussion based off the motion. Anyone?
Well, I'm not ready to make a motion because I don't understand the request for additional landscaping as it relates to this pool. And I mean, it sounds like that would be a condition to approval, but I don't understand where this landscaping is supposed to be. And I don't understand whether a proposed landscaping would be acceptable to the two neighbors who are objecting.
Sure. I'm I guess the initial part of it would be is asking commissioners or polling the temperature of commissioners on if we are looking to put a stipulation in there about adding specific landscaping. Bill?
Well, I had a question of whether we want to put a stipulation or whether we want to defer this pending submission of a landscaping plan so we could see what it actually is and have neighbors comment on it.
Okay. Bill?
This is a question for Ann mostly. Is it within our purview to require landscaping other than a fence to keep out people from being injured or in that? I mean, I'm just curious if we have. I don't.
You have
add.
You have, if I may, very broad powers under special permits to add any number of conditions. So yes, I would say it is within your purview to say, I'll just arbitrarily make something up, we want a certain amount of screening around this pool or any other. There are limits to what you could ask for, but because it is a special permit, you do have that ability.
So the other second part of that question is, was there landscaping that was supposed to be a screen along the road that was never put in?
Yes.
There's a tremendous amount of landscaping, and we will be discussing it later under our last hearing item, that has not yet been installed. Because there are so many plans in the file, I have not been able to determine what is exactly been planted and what has not been planted, but that could be part of the discussion for later.
Based on my hearing
And if I
from
could ask,
Kevin,
I'm sorry.
from Kevin and the Comers, I believe that none of it has been put along the property line that they abut with. Is that correct?
Well, some, not none.
It's not none, but
Yeah,
it's not what was agreed to.
yes.
So I feel a little
And-
bit,
Go ahead, Bill. Bill, you muted yourself by accident.
oh, sorry. I
problem.
apologize. I just feel that I'm not sure where the onus of this responsibility for landscaping falls at this point. I'm a little torn between the problems that we've had with the site in general, and then now these people just want to put a pool in, and now all of a sudden we're sort of putting a lot of thought into what their responsibility is.
If I might, Scott, I believe
Yep.
Schulten did indicate that they were planning on doing some landscaping.
Yep.
So it's not like we'd be imposing it, but maybe we could request a landscape plan to be reviewed. Just a thought. I mean, I didn't commit to that, but it did sound like she
Sure.
had every intention of doing that.
Well, so just to make sure commissioners understand, if we were to go that route, then that would mean we'd have to adjust what we are closing of the public hearing on, and we'd have to actually table it technically, Ann, right, to the next meeting? Is that correct?
Yes, you'd have to. Okay, you've already closed it. You'd have to reopen it.
Mhm.
And you would have to table it so that the hearing can remain open. You can accept additional information and applications from the landowner, and then you can discuss that and have additional public comment on it.
So that would be the temperature we need to take of the commissioners is, are we looking to reopen, table, and request information from the applicant on what landscaping they're planning to do?
I'd make that
Um,
motion.
I'd second it.
The
Yeah,
only caveat I would like to add is that somehow we determine what landscaping is still not done by the developer, and that may.
well,
I think we'll be
also
getting into
be-
that.
Coming up later.
I
Yeah.
know. I
Yeah.
know.
that would be
I
part
just
of the
want-
discussion later.
Okay.
It's hard because it's not really. It's hard to say. It is and it isn't part of this application. You know what I mean? Like it's
Seems to be.
okay.
I might posit that in my review of the file, most individual landowners were not doing landscaping, and that those planting plans were part of the larger development. So
Correct.
it may be appropriate to discuss it under that discussion item as opposed to burdening an individual landowner who nobody else has had to do that kind of landscaping work. But that, the file's a foot thick, and there have been a lot of adjustments and changes over time. But my overall sense of it is that there's a lot of planting that has not been done yet. And so we will be discussing that later in the meeting.
I'm assuming the plantings are not on the individual lots,
Right.
or is that an incorrect assumption?
Well,
So when you
technically,
do a project like this, there's a general landscape plan for the whole project that the developer does. Street trees, whatever. Usually the landowner, the house owner has like a 4-foot, 5-foot track around their building that they can plant their own plants. But the rest of it is all site driven by whatever was approved. So as what Ann said to me is 100% correct, that we're putting this situation on the owner of the property when in fact they're not really responsible for that area.
Yes, technically, I mean, if you were to look at the lot lines on the GIS, it would be their property, but there's kind of, I don't know if it's technically an easement, but there's basically a responsibility from the developer based off of their original special permit to landscape around.
Yeah,
the
there are, as I
property.
said earlier, there are no individual lot lines. It's land held in common.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I apologize for that.
Yeah, it's a HOA.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm just concerned that some people have gone and cut trees down. I'm more concerned about that, where they're cutting trees down that aren't theirs. That's something that the tree warden might want to look into.
Except it's private
So-
property, right?
There are, it's private property held in community, so it's not their own property. It's the part of the
Yeah.
homeowners association.
Yeah, but it would depend. It wouldn't be the purview of the town of the tree warden. It would come under the HOA
Yeah,
rules.
you're right. You're correct. Good
And we
point.
have no idea what their bylaws are for that, unfortunately.
Okay,
Um,
all right, good point.
Scott, based on that information, I'd like to withdraw my motion to reopen.
yeah.
yeah.
That's the way I was leaning as well, Phil. I think we are definitely going to get into the landscaping issue on this development. It's been something we've been into before, and hopefully we will continue to work towards a resolution. I definitely recognize the concern about the structural implications of the pool, just for the pool itself, but being that there's already been a design and an accepted permit that's been reviewed by our town staff, that makes me more comfortable with that part. So that's kind of where I stand.
I mean, I'm sensitive to the frustrations of the owners that are across Sachem's Head Road.
Sure.
But I wonder whether their frustration may be somewhat misplaced, because there's no question that the developer has not done what they have said, what he said he was going to do. And he's still not doing. But whether the solution to that is to punish one of the unit holders who wants to put a relatively small pool in the back of her yard, I'm having a little bit of a problem with that. But I have to tell you that when we come to the discussion about landscaping for the whole of Benton Knoll, I'm not inclined to give an inch to the developer.
All right, well, noted. Okay, so based off of that discussion, which was good, I think helpful for everyone, would anyone like to make a motion related to this application? I think
I'll
there was
propose a
one.
motion that the town
Thanks,
of
Bob.
Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approves
I
the
think
special
there's-
permit.
Yeah,
What?
go ahead.
Excuse me?
There's one that, are you looking at the prepared one or no?
Yeah, I am. I believe
Okay,
it's the
great.
proper one. It says
Go for
20
it.
Benton
Sorry.
Knolls. Thank you.
You were just doing it
Hey,
so flippant that I just like didn't,
Oh, no, no,
I didn't
no.
get the
Yeah, I've learned my, wait, I'll go back. I've learned my lesson. The Town of Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approves the special permit application for 20 Benton Knolls with the conditions as noted in this motion.
And all the conditions and were just the standard boilerplate conditions for
They're
process.
slightly adjusted so that they don't repeat things that are already on the special permit,
Sure, yeah, certainly.
because those remain in effect.
All those remain in effect. The only thing that's changing is that there's a pool now. Okay. So we have a motion from Bill. Do we have a second?
Second,
Second from Ted. Any further discussion from the commission? We'll do a roll call vote. Larry Rizzolo,
Yes.
Roger Joyce,
Yes.
Kevin Clark,
Aye.
Ted Sands,
yes,
Bill Freeman,
Yes.
Philip Johnson,
Yes.
and I will also vote yes. Motion carries. Now I entertain a motion to reopen a public hearing.
So moved.
Thank you,
Second.
Phil. Second from Ted. All in favor, please say aye, raise your hand.
Aye.
All right, we will reopen public hearing. Can we move on to the next one, please, Ann?
Okay, the next agenda item is the text amendment for childcare facilities. I/you are the actual applicant. This is our first text amendment that we are doing under the new ordinance to align our zoning regulations with Public Act 23-142. This is a requirement in terms of our definitions of family child care or group child care in a home. And originally it was required to be passed by towns by December 31st. We did not meet that deadline, but we are doing it now. You had seen this text before when we discussed it in December. And I also provided both the red line and the black line text for everybody to take a look at. Happy to bring it up if you need to look at it. But otherwise, that's it in a nutshell.
If you could bring that up, that would be great.
Yeah, and I guess just a quick narrative then of anything that might have changed from that last meeting to this one, to this proposal.
Nothing's changed.
Okay, great.
Let me bring the right one up. Okay, so this is a summary. It's 6 pages of the proposed changes. You see at the overview at the top, the Public Act. Essentially, we cannot treat any family child care home or group child care home located in a residence and licensed by the Office of Early Childhood Education in a manner differently from any single or multifamily dwelling. So we need to change a number of definitions in our definitions section. We need to add a definition for adult daycare, adult family daycare home, adult group daycare home, adult daycare center, and then also change our permit requirements under section 3. And then in all the other zoning districts, we also have to strike daycare facilities and add the words child daycare center or adult daycare center in those sections. Under the section 6, the use. How did this make it in here? Well, I don't know how this made it in here. Okay, so page 5. Oh, we're changing
about animals.
to the animals. We're saying just said daycare before, so we are adding the words animal daycare so that there's no confusion there. And then on page 6, we are adding a new subsection 6.12 childcare as indicated below. And then also in the parking and loading, requiring 1 space for 10 enrollees for childcare centers.
Great, thank you. Any follow-up questions from commissioners? Again, like
So
Ken said,
Ann, is this basically to be in compliance with what the state has required?
Yes.
Okay.
Seeing no further questions or comments from commissioners, I'd entertain a motion to approve this text amendment.
I'd move approval, Scott, on the proposed motion to approve childcare facilities text amendment as described and submitted by the town planner.
If I may, Mr. Chair, this is a public hearing and you need to take the public testimony.
Oh, I
first.
apologize. Yep, you got me on that. This bouncing back and forth, this, I gotta get used to. Yes, all right, we have no questions from commissioners at the moment. I'd like to entertain any questions or comments from the public. Please raise your hand, either on video or through the platform. And it looks like we don't have any. All right.
And it
So-
looks like you had a written motion already in place. Is that correct?
There's a proposed motion. So,
If I may, you need to close the public hearing before you
yep. Yeah, you got
entertain
me
any
again.
motions.
All
Sorry.
right.
Oh my gosh.
All right. Can I have a motion? I'm out of practice, guys. I missed the last meeting. This is tough on
There's
me.
a lot going on.
All right. Can I entertain a motion to close the public hearing on this item?
So moved.
Thank you, Ted. Second.
Second.
Oh man, everybody jumped at the same time. I'm gonna give it to Bill. Let's see here. Larry Rizzolo,
Yes.
Roger Joyce,
Yes.
Kevin Clark,
Yes.
Ted Sands,
Yes.
Bill Freeman,
Yes.
Philip Johnson,
Yes.
and I will also vote yes. We'll move on to deliberation for this item. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion, Scott, that the Planning and Zoning Commission approve the child care facilities text amendment with the conditions noted and described by the town planner.
Anything that we need to note based off those stipulations, Ann?
It would be helpful if somebody read into the record the reason for adopting the amendment and then probably the effective date, and that is on that motion as well.
All right. So, Roger, do you have that in front of you that you can bring up that first?
I do
the
have
first item.
to read that into the record, Scott.
Thank you.
Okay. The reason for this decision, Public Act 23-142 requires that zoning regulations in all Connecticut municipalities be amended so the regulations do not treat any family child care home or group child care home located in a residence and licensed by the Office of Early Childhood pursuant to CHS Chapter 368A in a manner different from single or multifamily dwellings. This text change aligns the local regulations with the state statute. The effective date for this text amendment will be April 20, 2024, which is after the publication of notice of decision, which is April 18th, 2024. Thank you.
Thanks. Do I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Kevin.
Yep.
Discussion? I don't think we have anything there, so we'll go to a roll call. Larry Rizzolo,
Yes.
Roger Joyce,
Yes.
Kevin Clark,
Yes.
Ted Sands,
Yes.
Bill Freeman,
Yes.
Philip Johnson,
Yes.
and I will vote yes. All right, you've got your approval, Ann.
Excellent. Our next item is the text amendment for motor vehicle location approval.
Sorry, we're just gonna vote real quick to reopen public. Do I have a second? Do I have a motion to reopen public?
So moved.
Thank you,
Second.
Ted. Thank you, Bill. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, go ahead, Ann.
Yep. Public Act 23-40 transferred the responsibility for granting certificates of approval of location, otherwise known as CALs, from the ZBA to the ZEO. This only applies to dealing and repairing automated uses, not gasoline stations. And I will bring up the text to run you through that quickly. Okay, so in the overview, you'll see the actual statute quoted. I'm not going to read that whole thing into the record, but the zoning regulations essentially need to be changed to grant the authority to the ZEO and to remove the authority from the ZBA. So we have two proposed changes, one under 9.1.c, motor vehicle dealers and repairers, and the other one at 9.7.d, which removes that section from the zoning regs.
Again, and this is based off of the state statute that we need to.
This is to
align with.
align the current zoning regulations with the state statute.
Great. Any questions from commissioners? I'll open up to the public. Any comment from public, please raise your hand through the Zoom platform or wave on from your camera and I'll see you. Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing on this item.
So moved.
Second,
I think I got that from Roger, second from Larry. All right, Larry Rizzolo. Yes? No? To close? Larry?
yes.
Thank you. Roger Joyce?
Yes.
Kevin Clark?
Yes.
Ted Sands?
Yes.
Bill Freeman?
Yes.
Philip Johnson?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes to close. We will deliberate on this item. Is there anyone that would want to make a motion based off of motor vehicle location? And please read the stipulation number 1 as well as number 3. Be doing it.
You might throw in number 2 while you're at it if we're.
Go for it. If you're feeling spicy. Don't make Roger read all these guys. Somebody,
The
anyone
town
got
of
one?
Guilford, I'll do it. The town of Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approves a motor vehicle location text amendment with the conditions and noted in this motions. Reason for the decision, Public Act 23-40 transferred the responsibility for granting location approvals for dealing in or repairing from the ZBA to the ZEO, Connecticut General Statute 14-54. Any person who desires to obtain a license for dealing in or repairing motor vehicles shall first obtain and present the commissioner a certificate of approval for the zoning enforcement official of the municipality where such license is desired, affirming that the proposed location and uses of the property conforms to the zoning regulations of such municipality. This text change aligns with local regulations of the state statute. Planning and Zoning Commission has stated on the record that the proposed text amendment is consistent with the current plan of conservation and development. The effective date of this text amendment will be April 20th, 2024, which is after the publication of notice of decision, which is April 18th, 2024.
Thank you, Bill. Do I have a second?
Second.
I think I heard Kevin first. Yes? Yes.
Sure.
You guys really taxed me there on that. Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Don't believe so. We'll go through roll call vote. Larry Rizzolo, motion
Yes.
approved. Roger Joyce,
Yes.
Kevin Clark,
Yes.
Ted Sands,
Yes.
Bill Freeman,
Yes.
Philip Johnson,
Yes.
and I'll also vote yes. I would like a motion to reopen the public hearing.
So moved.
Thank you. Second,
Second,
I heard Larry. All in favor, please say aye.
aye.
All right, let's keep going.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the text amendment for residential area dimensional standards. This text amendment, as we've discovered in the last 5 months or so, some of the residential standard tables are difficult to interpret. So I worked with Glenn to not actually change any standards, but to clarify them. I will share my screen to show you that. If I can get there. There we go. So the first page shows what on this sheet, what the current framework is. We have things that are confusing for folks, such as section 5, where there are different standards based on what kind of road you are on, but the zoning regulations fails to actually define what those roads are. Also, under section 6, there can be up to 5 or 6 different setbacks. Many of them are the same. So we've simplified that to a basic setback and then different setback for very specific conditions. I'll give you some examples in a minute. Similarly for rear setbacks as well. We have 8 additional pages where we're showing the actual changes that will be made. So for instance, in the R2 district, under number 1, we've added the words "if A" to the rear lot, so people understand that the minimum lot size for a parcel in the R2 district is 15,000 square feet, only if a rear lot. Similarly, what we just discussed for section 5, the basic setbacks, and then the different types of roads. I think in a later version at some point, we will add back into the zoning ordinance the actual definitions of all the state highways and the collector roads in town, because that was part of the previous ordinance. And then for things like side setbacks and rear setbacks, we end up with a basic setback and then a change if a rear lot, or a change if an accessory building 200 square feet or less, or if a rear lot. So this happens in every residential district. And it's really just a clarification so that folks aren't calling me every day to ask me a ton of questions for interpretation. So that is that simply in a nutshell.
Yeah, it looks like a good, efficient way to handle that. Any questions or comments from commissioners on that one?
No.
I'll open it up to the public. Any comment from the public? Raise your hand to the Zoom platform or on your camera. Seeing none, entertain a motion from commissioners to close this public hearing on this item.
So moved.
Thank you, Ted.
Second.
Oh, that one was really fast. Who was that?
Roger.
Roger got it?
Yep.
All right, so motion to close. Larry Rizzolo,
Yes.
Roger Joyce,
Yes.
Kevin Clark,
Yes.
Ted Sands,
Yes.
Bill Freeman,
Yes.
Philip Johnson,
Yes.
and I'll also vote yes to close. Now we'll entertain a motion to approve this item.
I give it a shot, Scott.
Thank you.
I propose that the Planning and Zoning Commission approve the residential area dimensional area text amendment with the conditions as noted in the motion. The reason for this decision, staff has found that the tables of area and dimensional requirements for residential zones in section 3.4 are more complicated than they need to be. Those standards are proposed for change. The intent is to reword and reorganize for clarity and user friendliness. Reword. Okay, let's move on. The Planning and Zoning Commission has stated on the record that the proposed text amendment is consistent with the current plan of conservation and development. And the effective date for this text amendment will be April 20, 2024, which is after the publication of notice of decision, which is April 18th, 2024.
Great, thank you. We have a motion from Roger. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Kevin. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to roll call vote. A motion to approve. Larry Rizzolo,
Yes.
Roger Joyce,
Yes.
Kevin Clark,
Yes.
Ted Sands,
Yes.
Bill Freeman,
Yes.
Philip Johnson,
Yes.
And I'll also vote yes. All right, motion, do I hear a motion to reopen public hearing?
So moved.
Thank you, Bill. Give that second, all in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, we're back.
Mr. Chair, if I may insert just two comments very quickly.
Sure.
I have a second set of text amendments that will, depending on how many applications we receive next month, will be coming to the commission. These are
Perfect.
items we have already discussed, but I would posit to the commissioners just to put this in your bank and start thinking about it. We have had many complaints, and just driving around town, we have all noticed that the sandwich board signs are proliferating everywhere. Our new regulations do not address them. So I would ask you to begin thinking about what you may want to do about possibly banning those or taking some other action towards them. But we will discuss that next month. I just want your wheels to start grinding on that.
All right, thank you.
Our next item for the agenda is 405 Whitfield Street, map 28, lot 5, zone I and R3. The applicant is Russell Campaign of Campaign Kestner Architects. The owner is Eagle View Homes LLC. This is a modification of an existing special permit to allow 6 new underground propane tanks. I will say there's a companion piece that if you would like to be efficient and vote on after you vote for this, it's the change to the CAM related to this project. I just want to make sure that it's these propane tanks are buttoned up and carried under both the special permit and the CAM so that there's no question in the future. But we can discuss that after the public hearing item.
Okay. Mr. Campaign.
All right, thank you very much. Russell Campaign, 131 Boston Street. I'm with CK Architects representing Eagle View Homes LLC at 405 Whitfield Street. After starting negotiations with the gas company when we first broke ground, and 9 months later, they gave us a proposal for $200,000 to install gas on the site with no projected timeline. They said that we had missed the fall start. This was in August. We missed the fall start and it would be a spring install. And so with that in mind, and given that we're all electric for all our heating and cooling and all we're using the gas for would be for backup generator and some cooking and domestic hot water, we decided to explore propane and found it to be much more cost effective and potentially better both environmentally and for the main purpose, which is resilience, for having on fuel storage on site for us in case we need it during a period of outage that's more than 2 or 3 days. And so the sizing, we went to HOCON. They will actually maintain the tanks and submeter them. And they recommended we have about 500 gallons per unit in order to run the generator for 2 to 3 days during an outage. So they recommended 6 tanks divided into serving 2 units each that would be submetered and billed to each of the residents. So we met with staff and worked through the details that they would like. And would you like me to share my screen or would you like to do that?
If you can you share your screen? Are you trying to?
I'm disabled.
Oh, okay, hold on, let me see.
Yep.
Did we need to reopen again? Or are we good?
We reopened.
You're good.
We did, okay, thank you.
Let me get
I'm back
advanced
on my
sharing
game.
up. Okay,
And if you-
Russ,
okay.
try now.
Yep. Okay. So here's the overall utility plan that we have. Oh,
Hold on, we're not seeing anything
Yeah,
yet.
it's loading up.
Okay.
my screen
Oh.
is going crazy here. Okay. Can you,
We'll let
I-
you know when it's loaded up, Russ. Right now, it's still thinking about it.
I
And if
can
you,
try, let me try from mine.
yeah, something's going strange on my.
Okay, let
end,
me
I guess.
try.
So I just stopped sharing.
Okay,
Yeah,
hold
if you
on
could pull
just
up the
sec.
utilities
Yep.
plan, that would be great. Thank you. Okay. All right,
I
so
can't get much bigger because I'm
That's
on a
fine.
laptop.
that's fine. So If you're oriented on the site, basically Whitfield Street is up the top and Pages Lane, and the rear entrance to the 11 units is entered at the back. Along the back edge of the paving, we're proposing 6 individual tanks that will line up along the edge of paving 5 feet off to meet the setback requirement. And basically, each one will service 2 of the units through a sub-metered line that will come into them. And as I said, it is basically primarily for storage for fuel for the generators. The protections we put in place is there's bollards that are along the edge that have been spaced in a way that won't allow for any vehicle access to that rear area. And we also actually, and this is not the most updated plan that you're showing. If you could grab the one that's most recent. That's still the old one. So we met with staff and they had several other additional items that they wanted us to include. And so actually, and that is still the original submission, not
Yep,
the one.
give me a second.
Oh, okay.
Let's just bring that up. Russell, can you speak to, flood issues and what's being done with these tanks to make sure that
Yep.
there isn't an issue if there is a flood?
Sure. So they're not in a flood zone. They're in they're not even in an AE zone. They're outside of the flood line. So, but in case there is obviously flooding in the area, we have ballasts that are designed by the engineer and stamped by the engineer. There's a page that shows the details. There'll be concrete ballasting that will be heavier than the weight of a flotation of an empty tank, so it won't be allowed to float. And there's no scour or other. We have geotechnical feedback on this area of the site, so there's no concern of scour in this area. So they're meeting all current code standards and meet the fire code standards as well. So that has been submitted to the engineer. She's reviewed it. One request that she made now originally on our original approval, all of our gas lines ran in a rectilinear way and entered in a rectilinear way for easy mapping and spacing. The engineer gave us feedback when we met that they wanted, now that it was propane, to run them in a different way so that they would avoid going into the limited wave action zone on the site. And so we've consolidated them and run them diagonally across the parking and into one location into the side of the building in order to stay out of the LIMWA zone. So that is a change from what was originally approved, with our gas lines running as natural gas through the LIMWA, but now she would like them in a different location on the site, which we're accommodating. And we are also moving our other utilities on the side of the building in order to accommodate that, because there's certain setbacks from the gas regulators and such that we need to meet, but we've updated all of that on the site plan. If you could pull up the erosion control, I would appreciate that. And I'll go through the measures taken for the installation concerns. So in meeting with the environmental planner, he was very concerned that we were going to have dewatering issues on the site. Now, the original proposal and submittal and approval did not have any dewatering details from an engineer for all of the excavation and foundation installation and septic systems and utility installation. But now that we're putting these tanks in, Kevin would like us to have an engineer design dewatering plan. So we have created that. Now, we haven't encountered water in any of our excavations, and about 6 feet off of this, we dug the trenching for all the water line, which was very deep and didn't encounter any water. But in case we do encounter water, we have a plan to actually run the pumps up to all into a catch basin we've already installed. All of our actual erosion control and stormwater control measures are still in place. The stormwater control are all installed and functional. So we will run a pump across the parking area into a sock and then into a catch basin, which will go through the already installed siltation system that we have for our regular drainage system. We've also installed another row of silt fencing just beyond where the tank installation will be. The original silt fencing and hay bales have been inspected on a monthly basis, and a third-party engineer has put in reports. So those are all intact and in good shape. All of our planting is already installed along that edge. So all the grass planting is installed and mulched in that area. So we'll put an additional line of defense to put the the silt fencing that is shown, and a catchment area that's shown in case there is a storm during the 2 or 3 days that it will take to install these. We also made another detail at their request to show a stockpiling that's on our gravel boxed out area and will be tarped if it's left at any time or there's any rain in the 2 or 3 day installation period. So I think we've met all the expectations of the town. In response to the CAM, this subsurface utility outside of the 25-foot setback does not rise to the level of a coastal site plan review or a CAM under the state regulations or the town regulations. So I'm not sure what the commentary about updating our CAM is. We did not submit an application for that, and I was told I did not have to because it is not rising to the level of a coastal area management application. But I'm under a special permit request here for the change of adding propane tanks as opposed to natural gas supply to the building. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them or any concerns, but I think we have worked closely with staff to address any concern that they have raised.
Russ, you mentioned that that this area has already been mulched. So is the plan to return it back to what it looks like now after the tanks have been buried? Besides, there'll be bollards, obviously.
Yeah, there's bollards, and then there's a 2-foot riser that comes up through, but the rest of the area will be covered with enough soil to support plants, and will still be under the expectations of the original site plan and planting plan that was submitted for the original site plan. So yes, they'll be unnoticeable except for the green 2-foot sort of submarine cap that comes out, and they're spaced roughly 20 feet on center along the backside. So really, I don't think there's much visibility to this, there's plenty of room. There's 5 feet in front for plantings in front of them. We still have to provide access for fill, but as far as, it's they basically probably won't get filled more than once a year, given the very low demand of the properties, unless there's a long outage. Obviously, if we have a storm that has a long outage, they would be filled, but it would just be filled with a residential bobtail truck, the 26-foot trucks you see. It can easily do a 3-point turn. We're not planning for bulk fills or anything along those lines with a semi or anything along those lines. And as I said, it'll be managed by HOCON, who will actually own and operate the tanks and maintain the metering of the tanks.
Scott, I have a question if I may. Russ, are these tanks equipped with cathodic protection?
I don't know what cathodic protection is. If you could clarify that a little bit.
Okay, yeah, it's subterranean tanks, underground storage tanks to provide
cathode. Okay. Yes, they have to meet. Yes, they have to have a grounding connection, and that's part of the building code and part of the fire code. And so they will install all to the standards. That's not really under planning and zoning purview. It's under the building code purview in order to get a building permit on these. But yes, they will meet all current standards for building code. We've met with Jim Considine. He's fully in support. He actually went up to the state to get clarification on a couple items. One of the first questions was whether whether there was a max cap of 2,000 gallons on a site, and that is only for above grade tanks. We got clarification from the state fire marshal that actually below grade tanks that are spaced 10 feet, there's no limitation on quantity. So
very good. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions from commissioners?
I will also say, actually, one thing that is a higher level of control is these propane tanks have a regulator that shuts off if there's a break or anything along those lines, whereas natural gas does not. I will also point out that propane is not a greenhouse gas, whereas methane, which is natural gas, is actually lighter than air and considered a greenhouse gas, 5 times carbon. So, and actually propane is a byproduct of gasoline refinement rather than a mined product. And so it's actually in many ways a much more sustainable and environmentally green product compared to the methane that was originally proposed on the site. And I think it's safer given it has extra measures against any leakage if there is a breakage. The tanks basically shut right off if there is a break, whereas natural gas doesn't have those protections in the same way. So I think we're, in a lot of ways it's an improvement. And I think from our perspective, having on-site storage also is a better protection for resilience. I think you'll see that a lot more often, even if people have gas. I think that the gas company is really not in an expansion mode in any way anymore, and their costs are prohibitive, and so on-site propane is going to be, I think, seen much more often, even if there's gas in the street. So just for reference, the cost of this is going to be about a third of the cost of what the gas company was proposing for their installation cost.
Any other questions from commissioners? Anne, was there anything else related to the town staff that we need to listen to?
I would just say I threw in the coastal site plan application as a belts and suspenders kind of action, but if Russ, you want to ignore that entirely, that's allowable too. You are in the CAM, so I wanted to pair them so that both are updated, but it's not absolutely necessary. And there's no extra conditions, it's just paperwork.
Well, we met, and there is no section of the application to check that would initiate this requiring a coastal site plan. So I personally don't understand. I think it actually causes more concern if we are asked to do a coastal site plan when it's not required for anybody else. So I don't see where the concern is about it. But I mean, obviously our as-built submissions are going to show the tanks. They're on record for the town. So I don't know. Are you fearful that someone in the community may raise concerns about us not getting an update to our coastal site plan review?
Yeah, I mean, there were some questions about it, but I threw it in at the last minute. So I don't think it's absolutely necessary. So, and I know we didn't discuss it.
It wasn't heard. I mean, are you
Right.
suggesting another hearing to do?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I'm just suggesting that coastal site plans usually stand on their own and the tanks are not shown on your previous coastal site plan. And this is just buttoning that up, but it's not absolutely necessary.
But subsurface utilities outside of 25 feet do not rise to the level of requiring a coastal site plan or a CAM.
Right, but it is in the CAM zone, so.
All right.
But
any other
I'm
comments?
fine just
Okay.
ignoring that, if
Okay.
you're okay with that.
I'm fine. I think that we're meeting the requirements and our submission is complete.
Thanks. Any other questions from commissioners? All right, open it up to public comment. Raise your hand on your camera or through the Zoom platform. Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing on this item.
So moved.
Thank you, Roger.
Second.
Second from Ted. Roll call vote to close public hearing. Larry Rizzolo? Did we lose him? He's there.
You're
Larry
breaking
Rizzolo.
up, Scott. Did you ask me to vote?
Yeah, sorry.
I vote yes.
Vote yes, thank you. Roger Joyce,
Yes.
Kevin Clark,
Yes.
Ted Sands,
Yes.
Bill Freeman,
Yes.
Philip Johnson,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes as well. Move to does anyone have a motion they want to make on this application for 405 Whitfield Street?
I have it in front of me if you'd like me to read it.
Yes, please.
The Town of Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approves the special permit modification for 405 Whitfield Street with conditions as noted in this motion. And I believe that is all that is necessary for this particular motion.
And the stipulations are the standard ones based off process for this application.
Yes, and we attempted to not duplicate special conditions that are already in effect under the existing special permit.
All right, thank you. Do I have a second?
So moved.
Second from Philip. Any discussion? I was impressed and pleased with the thoroughness of the application. I appreciate that. I know that it's a lot of work, but definitely appreciate your presentation, Russ. Any other comments or discussion points? All right. We have a motion and a second to we'll do a vote to approve. Larry Rizzolo,
Yes.
Roger Joyce,
Yes.
Kevin Clark,
Yes.
Ted Sands,
Yes.
Bill Freeman,
Yes.
Philip Johnson,
Yes.
and I'll also vote yes. Good luck to you, Russ. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
All
Russ.
right. I'll entertain a motion to reopen public.
So moved.
Thank you, Phil. Have a second.
Second,
Thanks, Larry. All right, all in favor? Please say aye.
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 All right, next item on the agenda, Ian.
Mr. Chair, the next item is 485 Podunk Road, map 94, lot 6-01, zone R8. The applicant owner is Mike Salafia of Salafia Builders LLC. This is the special permit to allow an accessory structure over 750 square feet. I will add for the record that we are considering the garage portion of this application. What this applicant is doing is actually building an ADU in half of the structure, a garage in the other half. The ADU is as of right. The garage is not.
And we'll get to the applicant in a second. I think I don't know, can we put any thought into how to make that less confusing?
I'll put it on the list. Yeah.
Thanks. All right. So who do we have here to present for this application? Yeah, if you want to unmute yourself there and state your name and address for the record and present, please. Although it just looks like you froze. Sir, it looks like yeah, there you go.
Hi.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay, there we go. Hi, my name's Mike Salafia. I'm the owner and also the builder of the project. It is my property. So we'd like to put up this barn, and one of the bays in the barn is going to be a single garage for the ADU, as Ann had pointed out. The garage itself, I think, meets all the requirements, all the setbacks. We have a 6-acre lot here. We've also designed a septic system for the ADU. That's later, I know. But so I asked that the commission would consider this project.
Thanks.
I'm going to share
Ann-
my screen so you
yeah,
can take a look at it.
Thanks, Ann.
And I have a question about the ADU, just as it's being sort of tied into this. If you have an ADU that's, say, 1,000 square feet of living space, are you entitled to have a garage attached to it as long as it's under 750 square feet? Or how does that work?
That's not my reading. The ADU provisions don't mention garages at all.
Right.
So I was considering this special permit. Since the ADU half of this building is as of right, I was considering this special permit to discuss the garage half of it.
No, I understand. I just was
Yeah.
thinking that, in the future, somebody might put a 1-car garage on an ADU. I just didn't know if that was ever been considered or
under the
addressed.
current, under the current way that it's being read, then that would be a detached building technically, but since it's a 1-car garage, it would be on less than 750 square feet, so
Right.
it would not trigger. But that would be considered separate from the ADU, even if it was in
Okay,
the same
that's good. That's what I thought, but I
building.
just was curious.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a better way for that, but that's where we are right now. So
I would say for the record, this is the first ADU we are seeing that has a garage attached to it. Most of the
Right.
other ones that I've been signing off on are completely separate units with no garage component whatsoever.
I'm also pretty sure, Ann, that the state regs for ADUs, which is what we modeled everything after, don't talk about garages, do they?
I don't believe they do.
All right. Okay, so we're looking at the main building is planned south, and then we've got the proposed ADU next to the barn behind it. Got it.
I
And
do
I
have a
would say,
question
For the
about
record,
the
if I
two-fam-
could,
Go ahead.
Yeah, Bill, 1 second. Ann, what do you got?
This says 2-bedroom ADU, but when you look at the building plans, it's only one. I think it's a typo from the engineering firm.
That was my question.
All right, thank you. That's good to note. All right, any questions from commissioners based off of this site plan here? That's the existing well, correct, sir?
That is the existing well, correct?
Okay. And you're retaining the existing gravel driveway and adding on a proposed gravel driveway?
That is correct. Yep, we're gonna come in, so that will have a separate driveway to it.
And you've got a stormwater area, so that's all detailed. This was all reviewed by town staff, and
Yes,
with
it
no
was.
comments? Okay,
He did make one set of revisions based on our comments.
great. All right, any other questions for commissioners?
Is this going to be on a basement or a slab?
It's gonna be on a slab. It's gonna be a frost wall with a slab in it.
Great, thanks. And if you wanna drop the share. If there's no other questions for commissioners, we'll open up for public comment. If you want to comment, raise your hand on the camera or through the Zoom platform. All right, seeing none, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing on this item.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Ted. Got that second. We have a motion and a second to vote to close. Larry Rizzolo,
Yes.
Roger Joyce,
Yes.
Kevin Clark,
Yes.
Ted Sands,
Yes.
Bill Freeman,
Yes.
Philip Johnson,
Yes.
and I'll also vote yes. I'd entertain a motion of approval for this item.
All right, I don't have it in front of me otherwise.
I have it in front of me. Would you like me to read it?
Yes, please. Thank you.
The Town of Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approves the special permit for 485 Podunk Road with the conditions as noted in this motion. I don't believe there's any other items to be read.
Yep, again, just for the record, and all the 7 stipulations on here are just the standard logistics.
Yes, standard
Requirements.
boilerplate derived from the current regulations.
Thank you very much. We have a motion from Bill. Do we have a second?
I'll do a second on that, Scott.
Thank you, Roger. And any discussion? Again, I'll note, I appreciate the applicant went to staff, made some changes based off comments, and then updated their plan. So I appreciate that. I'm sure it took a little time, but
Thank
I
you.
think it makes a successful application. Any other comments from commissioners? Seeing none, we'll open it up to, we have a motion and a second for approval. Larry Rizzolo. Larry Rizzolo, you want to vote to approve?
Yes.
All right. Roger Joyce,
Yes.
Kevin Clark,
Yes.
Ted Sands,
Yes.
Bill Freeman,
Yes.
Philip Johnson,
Yes.
and I'll also vote yes. Good luck with your project. Thank you.
Have fun.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
The next item, I believe, is going to be a lengthy discussion. Could I have a 3-minute break?
Yes, of course.
Okay. I'll be
So
right back.
do you want to put a pause in the recording?
Um,
And then we'll reopen when we
yep.
bring it back?
Thank you.
All right.
Is everybody
So
back?
I just want to state for the record that we are back on recording and no business was carried out during that brief intermission. And it looks like we're going back to a public hearing, so it would entertain a motion to reopen public hearing.
So moved.
Thank you,
Second.
Philip. And a second from Ted. All in favor, please say aye.
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 And I think we got Bill as well there. Good job.
Okay. Our next item is a discussion of the Benton's Knoll financial surety hearing. I will remind the commission at our last meeting, we had a discussion about the financial surety, which expired in February of 2024. I'm going to share my screen. As a result of our last discussion, this is the surety that we discussed last time. It was signed in 2021. It was an agreement between the town and Benton's Knoll LLC to complete all of their site work by February 3rd, 2024. At the last meeting, we discussed this matter. You'll see in the last paragraph that the Planning and Zoning Commission, if a default is to be discussed, must bring the applicant back for a public hearing, which is what we did. I have sent to Benton's Knoll LLC a letter via certified mail. Let me find it. No, here we go. Nope. I don't have that up right now, but I'll bring it up in a minute. I sent a letter via certified mail asking Russ Smith to be present at this meeting to discuss the surety and the lack of progress on the planting. We received as well, for the record, a letter from the Benton's Knoll Owners Association asking us to bring this matter before the commission. And we've also received today a letter from Russ Smith regarding the surety. And I'm sure he will discuss that. I can bring anything else up during the meeting. I'll have to go find my letter that I sent out, but that's where we are.
How would you propose that this discussion proceed, Ian?
I would suggest perhaps you have Mr. Smith, if he's on the line, because he sent some information today regarding his reasons for not completing the work. You may want to ask him to have a quick presentation and then perhaps ask some questions of the commission and then from the commission and then take public testimony on the item.
All right, thank you. Mr. Smith, would you like to, I think as was discussed, we've received a letter here from you, which is spelling out some of your reasons for not meeting your deadline date of February 3rd. You want to discuss those now, please? You're muted, sir. And just state your name and address for the record as well once you get yourself unmuted there. All right.
And can you unmute him?
Looks like you're unmuted, but I'm not hearing you. Do you have a microphone that you need to turn on potentially? And if not, is there a possibility that you can call in using your phone? The reason for the suggestion about the phone is because usually the phone will automatically handle both sound and microphones for you.
While we're waiting for Mr. Smith, I'll bring up the letter I sent so you can all see it.
Thanks.
So this was sent out on the 13th of March, describing the financial surety executed by the town to complete certain site improvements related to drainage, site landscaping, and paving. Since the road work was completed last fall, the town engineer released all but $50,000 of the bond. There's still significant drainage and landscaping work remaining, and the invitation to come to this hearing to be present, heard, and to submit evidence as to why he should not be deemed in default of the surety.
Mr. Smith, have you been able to fix your microphone?
That I think I have the number.
Yeah.
I think it's.
Is there a
one-
call-in number attached to it, Ann, or is it through
There's
Zoom
a
that you have
link.
to do it?
There's
There's
a
a link
link,
with the,
there's a link that I just filed, Scott, and there's a phone
Yeah.
number 1-929-436-2866. And then you would enter the meeting ID, I believe.
Right. Is there a way that you could show that on the screen, Ann, for us?
I'm looking for it in my,
If you want to share, if I can share my screen, I can do that if you want.
okay, hold
All right.
just a sec.
Yeah. If you want to give Phil the go there.
Okay, you should be able to share now.
Sorry, can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the number to call, and then is there there's not a password or anything, right, Phil?
There's
I
a
bel-
meeting.
So once we've got that number,
Yeah.
the meeting ID is 639-632-0192.
All right, jump back to that phone number for him just in case you get a chance to grab it. You.
Do you want me to go back to the code number, Scott?
Sure. Then there's your meeting ID number. Should ask for it.
Mr. Smith, can you give us a thumbs up if you're on your phone?
So Scott, I'm going to stop on the share, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. I assume, man, you've got an eye on your meeting lobby.
He's connecting.
Thank you.
James, can you let Petey out?
But I think I should be able to.
Mr. Smith, can you hear us?
Yeah, you're gonna have to unmute. Turn on there. All right, I see you.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah.
And you're gonna need to turn off the sound on your computer.
Apologize for that. How's that better?
Yep, there you go.
Yes.
We got you.
Okay, sorry for that delay. I thought everything was working. So I guess going back to the question, the letter today really was not getting the, it was clarification. And I would like the letter to be read at the meeting for record, please.
All right. And you want to bring it up? You're muted, Ann.
Yeah. Why don't you read it into the record since it's from you?
Okay, ready?
Yep, go for it.
Benston LLC, PO Box 907, Old Connecticut, 06371, dated 4/1/2024. To the Guilford Planning and Zoning from Russ Smith, Benton's Knoll, reference Benton's Knoll Association request for bond call. Dear Commission members, in December of 2023, I met with your town planner and I indicated I would be in after the new year to make an application for the modification to the original landscape plan. My intent was to make the submission in January and February. I elected not to make this application during those months because I was not sure I would be able to attend the meeting, and my landscape designer was also was going to be out of town during that time frame. Prior to meeting with your planner and over the course of several preceding months, I had several meetings on site with the homeowners of Benton's Knoll. I and my landscape designer walked the property and discussed the proposed modifications to the landscape plan. I received comments from some of the homeowners and we adjusted the plan based on some of those comments. An engineer's report was also submitted to me by the association. Part of the engineer's report suggested cleaning of the catch basins, which I agreed to do. I requested from the association and did receive acknowledgement of the association's acceptance of the modified landscape plan, which I provided a copy to as well. It is still my intent to submit for modification to the original landscape plan. I will be making this application for modification shortly and will submit the proposed revised plan along with any required town application forms required. Once approved, I intend to do this landscaping per the proposed plan this spring after approvals and do the basin cleaning. I do believe the bond is only being held for landscaping. The bond is in excess of $50,000. The recent quotes from my landscaper, labor, and materials for the revised landscape plan is less than $20,000. I am awaiting bids on basin cleaning from two companies. I had requested last fall, but they wanted to wait until after the past winter to bid in case there was any additional sedimentation that might occur. At this time, I'm not sure why the association has requested the call of the bond. Nothing would or could have been planted until this spring. At this time, I would request to defer any action on the bond so that I may submit the revised plan, which has been approved by the association, and a new completed application form to the commission for approval. In the past, I've always had open conversations with the homeowners of Benton's Knoll and was quite perplexed as to why they felt the bond had to be called without being out to me personally. I'm happy to respond to any questions that might come up, and I plan to attend the Zoom meeting tonight. Thank you, Russ Smith, manager of Benton's Knoll LLC.
Thanks. Just one point of clarification there for you. The call for bond was is from the Planning and Zoning Commission based off of that agreed upon.
But it was motivated by the letter from the association, in my opinion.
Well, I can't really speak to that. I mean, it's a process, right? Like the date was missed, and therefore we have to move forward with proceedings.
Okay.
So, I guess the first question that jumps out to me, and then I'll open it up to the rest of the commissioners, is, yeah, you know, we originally started talking about landscape. I think the bond, the bond in question was discussed in 2021. So why is it that we've now missed the deadline here 2 years later? And I get that you met with the town planner in December, but you gave yourself a very small window when you could have had a 2-year window to complete landscaping, especially if the landscaping was only $20,000.
One of the
Can you speak to
comments,
that, please?
One of the comments that Ann had made earlier is that the file is a foot thick. This has been an ongoing discussion and modification with regards to landscaping for quite some time now. And the conversations that I had with town staff previously, going way back, has always been with some modifications to what the original plan was that was originally submitted. I'm going to state that, you know, in many conversations with Mr. Kroll, and in response to some of the comments that Mr. Coleman made earlier, the previous town planner, Jamie Stein, I have emails back in October of 24 that has an agreement with the Comans as to acceptance of some modifications to the plan. So I guess I'm perplexed as to now at this point, you know, the bond being called, and I understand the technical aspects of it. But I think I've been actively working on trying to get that project finished, which I believe came out quite well. I also was actively trying to get the final plans modified with the association, hence the different meetings and the input from them as well in order to be able to do that. Plus their letter of acknowledgement that stated that they were willing to accept the modified plan. So those were the actions that I was taking.
But we had an accepted modification plan in 2021. What necessitated the change to the further modification to that plan? Was it a desire to talk to neighbors and continue to change it again, or how come we didn't execute the plan that was decided on with everyone, including the neighbors, including planning and zoning, in 2021?
There's a lot of reasons. First of all, the project wasn't finished in 21. That was one of the major reasons for not doing the landscaping. We wanted to complete the road work and everything else that was necessary to be done before we went in and did finish plantings. We had 1 or 2 houses to complete at that time as well. Unit 5 and Unit 6 were addressed specifically as part of modifications to some landscaping plans that were requested and that were done. So again, this has not been something that has not been addressed or actively been worked on. And I understand that the date of the previous agreement has passed, but we've been actively working to get it resolved and finalized.
All right, any other commissioners, you have any questions you want to pose to Mr. Smith? Ted, go ahead.
Well, I hear what you're saying, and I've read your letter, but I still don't understand why in the 3 years since the agreement was entered into, if the planting is only $20,000 worth, why it couldn't get done. I'm sorry, but I just don't understand that. And it seems to me that at this point, your request to delay and delay and delay with no set date and no signed contracts that this stuff is going to get done, I just don't understand why we should approve any of this. I think we should just call the bond and get some contractors in there and get this work done this spring.
Well, obviously that's the commission's prerogative to be able to do that, but let me answer your question as to why. The logic for not doing the landscaping in its completion was because of the fact that there were still houses being actively built. And everybody was in agreement that it would be in the best interest of the community to wait till the road was finally paved, the last house was completed, and then the landscaping installed. That all happened late in 2023. That's when the road bond was released. And at that point, that's when we initiated the concepts for the modifications. I wanted to make sure the association had approved it before I came back into the town for the modification. So the logic has always been, it wouldn't make sense to do all and complete all the landscaping until the houses were completed, until the road was completed.
So if this was the case, it's Bill Freeman, why did you not come before the commission or the town before the clock ran out? That makes no sense.
Well,
I agree.
I have no excuse for that, except that I was actively working on it and it didn't I missed the date.
I can't say that I know the whole story about Benton Knolls, but I know that it's been going on since I got on the commission and possibly before others. But I think that it just keeps coming up and up and up, and I think the neighbors are tired, and I don't think your excuses are very good, personally.
Well, do you think the neighbors in the neighborhood are tired, or just the neighbors that are abutting the community?
They're still neighbors.
Any other commissioners, questions, comments for Mr. Smith? Larry? You're gonna have to unmute.
Yeah, I apologize. My internet is a little unstable, and so I'm missing occasional comments here and there. So earlier, neighbors were talking about issues with erosion and stability of parts of the landfill. I'm not sure what they were talking about there. But you work on the site, and so you perhaps understand better what they're talking about. So are your landscaping plans dealing with those issues raised by the community? Can you say a few words about that?
When Unit 5 and 6 were developed, the drainage question came up. I had my engineers do a study on the property for that area, and the drainage is less now than prior to development. And that was submitted to the town, and the town engineer and approved. Lot 5 was developed, and then Lot 6 was developed based upon the approved site plans from the town. Now, I haven't been on site for some time because the last house that we finished down there and paved the roads was last fall. The site, which is Jane Schulten's site, which was the one you were talking about the pool earlier, and I was there was fine. If something's happened between that time and now, I'm not aware of that. And Mrs. Schulten has never given me any input of any deficiencies there. And as I said, during the initial applications for 5 and 6, there was a full drainage analysis done that showed that there was less runoff now than there was previously to the development.
Any other commissioner questions, comments before we open it up to public?
In addition to that, I mean, when we developed Unit 6, the Comans looked for very specific landscaping designs, which we did and modified multiple times. And Jamie Stein was instrumental in having all of that come to a conclusion that the Comans in emails acknowledged that they were satisfied with, and we planted accordingly. So I'm perplexed as to what we have not done there with regards to for those specific lots. We added additional landscaping to the number 5. We added additional plantings that were agreed to the side of the Coleman's property, and those were installed. As a matter of fact, they were installed at the completion of Unit 6, and they were a contingency of the issuance.
All right, before we open it up to public comment, I guess one last follow-up to your comments. Do you have, can you lay out for us a timeline of, you said that starting, I guess, in the fall / the end of 2023, you were working with the homeowners association on modifications to the site plan. Do you have drawings of that you can share? Do you have
drawings that are being submitted as part of the application for the modification to, yes.
So the drawings are complete. Everything's approved by your HOA.
The association has approved them.
Okay. You have, but you haven't showed them to anyone else outside of the HOA?
Have not, because they were planning on being submitted as part of the application for modification.
All right. And you have a timeline, after, if you were to submit that application and it were to be approved, do you have a timeline for completion of the project?
Well, let's talk about a timeline. So the next application I think I could make would be May 3rd, which would be heard at your June meeting. And I'm sure that if we were approved at the June meeting, we'd be able to start immediately on the plantings. once I know I have an approval, we can get the plan purchased. My landscapers has bid the job. They're ready to get started. And I'm sure that I will have the basin cleaning that was requested, bids for that done as well.
Any other questions, comments from commissioners before I go to public comment? Seeing none, I'll start taking public comment on this item. Yeah, raise your hand. If you are able to, you know how to, please raise your hand in the through the
Oh.
Zoom platform too, so that I can have kind of an orderly line. I've seen Kevin O'Brien, Carlos, and I've seen iPhone Debbie Coben. So first one I saw raised was Kevin O'Brien. So we'll go to you first. Please state your name and address for the record, please. And you know, in the interest that we are past 9 o'clock.
Yeah, I'll be brief.
I'm not trying to restrict people's time or anything like that. Please say what you need to say, but just, you know, brevity where possible. Thank you.
Kevin O'Brien, 97 Old Sachem Head Road. I am a neighbor. I'm directly behind 20 on Sachem Head Road. What are the plans for landscaping behind 20 Benton Knoll? That's right on Old Sachem Head Road. Are there going to be trees there, or something to cover the pool that's going to be placed in there?
Well, the pool has nothing to do with what my landscaping plan is.
Okay, so what kind of screenings are you going to put in? I saw in the plans there are screenings. What kind of screenings are you putting up? What's the plan for that?
I don't
Just
have the
curious.
plan. I have to go back to my plan and refer to that and see exactly what it is. But it was all part of what was reviewed previously for the final revisions to the Unit 6 site development plan.
Right. I've seen the original plans where there were supposed to be like 30 to trees there, bushes. So I hope we stick to the original plan. But I am a neighbor. We are neighbors to this neighborhood, and really it's been a nightmare for the last 13 years. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien. We'll go to Carlos Palomares. I hope I didn't butcher that too badly. Can you state your name and address for the record, please?
Actually, it's Andrew Smullian on Carlos Palomares.
All right.
I live at 12 Benton Knoll, and I'm speaking in my capacity as secretary of the Benton Knoll Owners Association. And we are categorically opposed to giving any further extensions and wish the town to call in the money and get this work done. This has been going on far too long. While we did approve in concept Russ's plan that he's referring to over the summer, that was in contemplation that this would be done in the fall. This has gone on long enough. If he had proceeded with the vigor that should be expected under the circumstances, this would have been approved and planted well before now, or at least this spring. And no, it's not going to happen. We remain firmly convinced that the only way to bring this to a conclusion is for the money to be called and for the town to complete the work.
Great. Thank you. Next in line I saw was iPhone Debbie Coleman. Please state your name and address for the record.
Muted.
Just unmute yourself though first, sorry.
Greg and Debbie Coleman, 80 Old Sachem's Head Road. First thing I want to say is we completely agree with what Carlos just said about pulling this bond and getting this done now. I just heard the exact same old story we've been hearing from us for almost 15 years. Delay, not do anything. And he also brought up this Coleman landscaping. That was something that we worked out with Jamie Stein that had absolutely nothing to do with this original landscaping plan. He's trying to put them together, which is not correct. The other thing that amazes me is there's, I don't know, a couple hundred plantings in this original planting plan, and $20,000 is going to cover that. That seems impossible to me. And I just want to say a couple things. We've been here since 2009 doing this, fighting for landscaping and adherence to the original plans. And our ongoing efforts contribute to the fact that there's even a bond remaining here. Aaron Mannix reestablished a bond for landscaping because the original landscaping was giving back to Russ by the original town planner, George Kroll. That was proven by Jamie Stein and the attorney for the town. So he readily accepted it without putting anything in. So I think that says a lot about character. Again, our border with Old Sachems Head Road, as we said earlier, is taking all the runoff, it's taking all the down trees. In addition to all the light pollution, we are looking at 5 houses with 3 to 6 outdoor lights, plus all the indoor lights, and we can see them all because not enough landscape has been put up high enough in between our property and Benton's Knoll. So depending on the plan, there was originally upwards of 40 trees within our vicinity, and not one of these trees has been planted high where they were supposed to be in the original landscaping plan. And do you have any of the photos I sent you of those lights by any chance?
I do.
sent 3
Give me a
photos
minute
there.
to,
Thanks.
give me a
you
minute to
just-
bring them up.
Thanks. If you could just show the one with the lights of what we look at in our backyard, that'd be great.
You can keep talking while I'm trying to find them.
Yeah, and the other thing, the other photo I'd like you to show is the top of the hill next to us on Jane's property. It is concerning. It's concerning. Jane is a great person. This has nothing to do with Jane. It just has to do with my concern actually for her property and her and us and the entire neighborhood. You can see where it's just ripping apart underneath the grass. How is this? Is anybody going to fix it? Is anybody going to look at it? It's very concerning.
Great.
You have those photos yet or no?
Yeah,
She's
it's
working
just
on it.
taking a
Okay.
minute.
And let me just say one more thing too. I haven't not been through this before, like I think a lot of us. And this final landscaping plan, in our opinion, and maybe this isn't the case, but it should not be applied to original homes back in Benton's Knoll. It should apply to the overall blending of the PRD into the neighborhood and borders in between the houses. But it should be for the benefit of the entire neighborhood. That is a photo I took recently. You can see the pool being on the other side of the deck being put in, and you can see just what's happening underneath that hill there. It's just happening over and over again, and it keeps getting worse. And then there should be a photo of just kind of the light, just because you guys understand the light pollution we're dealing with. So just my final comment is it's time to finish this thing off properly and now, and not wait for Russ. We've been waiting for Russ for too long. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
If I may, this is the photograph of the lights at night.
Yeah.
Correct. And
And
I think,
then-
sorry,
Go ahead.
so yes, that's correct. And I was just going to state, this isn't our project to finish off, but again, if you come to our house, we sit so down slope, we cannot do anything more. We've spent $20,000 to attempt to put landscaping in. We've had trees fall down because of everything. We've had to spend money. We're in over 20,000 just trying to put money. We can't get that height of the houses up there to even attempt to cover all these lights that shine down on us. And we had next to us and in that vicinity, 22 evergreens and another 10 plants that were on the original plans. And does that look like a finished multi-million-dollar project? Doesn't to me.
Thank you.
Thanks. Right, those were the 3 hands that I saw originally when I asked for comment. Do we have any other public comment? Folks. All right, I believe this is probably Carlos Pomaloris, but can you state your name and address for the record, please? You are muted though. Perhaps your microphone's not on, or if you are there next to your neighbor, maybe you can slide over to their computer because that seemed to work.
This is Carlos Palomares at 15 Benton's Knoll. And I just want to say that I agree with the comments that were made by our neighbor just before. I also want to state that, yes, the members of the association sat down with Mr. Ross and reviewed his revised plans. But this happened back in the spring and early summer. He even promised us that the work was going to get done at the latest in the fall, and he never presented plans to you. It's not clear to me that those plans that he's now talking about would meet your requirements. So I think that these are just delay actions that are unjustified. And we'd like to move forward so that we can be in a good standing with our neighbors.
Thank you. All right.
No, we're upset.
Any other public comments? Got a few people without cameras on if they want to raise their hand. Otherwise, and I just wanted to have you chime in one time for us on just the process of this thing. So this bond is based off of a plan that was part of that modification, that agreement back in 2021. So
Yep.
what's the process if it was to be pulled? What's the process? Is the process just that's the plan that we're going with, or how does that work?
Yeah, so let me speak to that. So what I would have to do is, if directed by the commission to pull the bond, I would have to pull the last approved set of plans. And then what I would do is I would take those plans into the field and vet them against what may or may not have been planted. So essentially ground truth them. And that would give me essentially a site check and a set of drawings to work from as for sending out to RFP for a landscape contractor to come in and do the work. That's going to take some time. As a landscape architect, I can tell you that the spring planting period is generally from April 15th to around June 1st. And then there's a fall planting period that opens up around September 15th and goes through about November 1st. You do not want to be planting trees in the summertime because they will die. So that said, if I was directed to, we probably, given our staffing situation, wouldn't be able to go to bid for a few weeks. We are definitely going to miss the spring planting period. We would line this up for the fall. That would give us time, if there truly are 40 trees to be planted left, and I can't speak to that, I'm just taking that as, an estimate. I can tell you, depending on the size, generally a landscape contractor is going to take the cost of the tree, and generally a very small tree would cost around $500, and they double it for installation. So the $50,000 may just barely cover the cost of the outstanding work to be done.
Yeah, that's very off the cuff, though. I want to make sure everyone's
Very
aware
off the cuff. I'm just, speaking out of turn without having done any analysis. But essentially, that would be the process. My office would manage it. Luckily or not, I'm also a landscape architect, so I would have to be essentially running the project for the commission. Otherwise,
Okay.
we'd have to hire somebody, and I do not believe that $50,000 would cover that cost as well.
And I just want to kind of put it out there to make sure it's understood. So that modification process and that agreement that we came to, that was vetted in public hearing. So there would not be a next time for that to be vetted again by public hearing, correct?
Yes, we'd have to go, unless you instructed otherwise, we'd have to go with the current approved plans that have not been installed. The only caveat there is that there may be some slight adjustments to locations of plants depending on what may be on the ground that isn't,
Sure.
that wasn't originally picked up in the plans.
Sure. Okay. But yeah, so it would probably already be a process that would at least run into the fall planting period. If we were to even start talking again about public hearing and modification of that plan from 2021, could take even longer then. Correct? And
Is that a question?
Yeah, that's a question.
I would say there is
Is
no
there even
way.
a process for that? Or
there is no process. If you desire us to revisit the planting plan with the HOA and the
Right.
public, we would have to come back, renotice, come up with a planting plan. And I think that is beyond the scope of, the calling of the
probably-
original bond.
Because you would have to engage some experts, right? To help in making those plan modifications. You'd have to engage engineers. They would have to spend money. So part of that bond would then have to go towards working on plans, right?
Exactly. And the bond as released last fall, it was understood that it was released. The release was to cover the paving, but not any outstanding site and landscaping.
Right. Okay. I just wanted to make sure everybody understood what we're looking at in terms of process here. In the event if it was voted, if there was a vote to pull the bond. Any other comments or questions from commissioners?
Can I just add one thing?
Sure.
I would just say that giving my lack of staff, that, we're fully capable of running this project and hiring a contractor to do the work, but it would be a tremendous burden on the office.
Yeah, which would not be covered in the bond itself.
Correct.
Okay.
Scott, it's my sense
commissioners?
from listening to most of the homeowners that
Yep.
they'd rather have a bird in the hand than trying to go with a modified plan. That they'd rather say, here's what we've got, let's get what was originally agreed to, as opposed to extend this process out even further. That's my sense from listening.
Yeah.
Well-
At least there was a public hearing process in 2021 for the modification plan that was agreed to, right? So at least there was input there. Again, is that going to fix all the problems though? It's so hard. I mean, can't guarantee anything there.
Look,
Ted?
Scott, it seems to me that we're kind of between a rock and a hard place here. Personally, I have no faith at all that Russ Smith is going to execute any plan. I mean, all he's done since 21 is delay. And so if I was a homeowner or a neighbor, I would put a 0 probability on that resulting in any planning being done. On the other hand, given the staffing situation that we have in the P&Z office, the chances of our being able to get this done for the fall is kind of iffy. I mean, there's no good answer, but I'm sorry, I can't stomach the idea of forcing the homeowners and the neighbors to put up with more of Russ Smith's delays. I just can't.
Thanks, Ted.
I think
Any other commissioners? Bill?
I feel horrible that Ann's in this position beyond, but I also know that these people have been coming back to us over and over and over again with the same issues. And it's not their fault that we're in this situation. It's Russ Smith's fault. And we need to take action and try to help them and correct the problem. That's our responsibility. And as painful as it's going to be, which I believe it will be, it's still something we need to do.
We're still talking about public comments. So any other commissioners' questions or comments or Russ, do you have any?
Let me ask one other question. I mean, I belong to 2 homeowner associations, and sometimes we decide that as an association, we want to modify something or we want to change something, and the association kicks in some money. I think that if we call the bond and comes back to us and says, we've talked to the contractors and we've talked to the landscape architect, and to do this, it's going to take more than the 50,000. Then the question is, would the homeowners association put up some of the balance to get this thing done?
Yeah, I
I
think
don't
that's
think
probably
the issue.
that's across the bridge when it comes to it, kind of thing. I think.
Let's not worry about what we
or-
don't know.
Yeah.
If we do vote to pull the bond, then yeah, we would execute the modification plan, and then it would kind of be a discussion between the neighbors and the homeowners association whether anything additional they wanted to work on doing anything additional, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
If I may, Mr.
yeah.
Chair, it's not clear to me, and you may want to get some testimony on this, whether the modification that was approved in 2021, if installed, would, I'm going to put this in quotes, make everybody happy. I'm assuming it was well vetted because it went to public hearing, but not having been there, I can't attest to that. So, and we don't have a lot of leeway for adjusting the plan to meet new conditions that may have come up in the meantime. So I just want to make sure
understood.
everybody understands that.
Yeah, I hope so. That's why I asked the line of questioning I did earlier, to make sure everybody understood the process and understood what calling the bond meant, if that was the direction that we chose to go. And yes, you're correct. We had at least 2 public hearings related to the modification plan in 2021. I know that some of the folks that are on the call here were at those meetings. I obviously can't speak to
I'm not
whether.
sure. This is Debbie. I mean, I'm going to go back and pull some records as well, but I'm not sure what matters from planning and zoning and what doesn't. But this modification, I think, had to do with some plantings. We came to an agreement because it's been year after year after year where we want Jane to get her house, but we also want some plants in. So I don't think this modification in 2021 was an extensive one. I think it was a partial. So there's a whole site to consider. I'm pretty sure, but I have to go back and pull those records as well.
So it doesn't anything. So the modification from 2021. I guess that's a good thing to state. The modification of 2021 doesn't exactly replace everything. It's just changing what was there from 2021
Right.
slightly. It's still the overall plan, but the most current version of that overall plan was modified in 2021.
Yeah.
So it's not what changed in 2021. It's the overall plan. That's what Anne would go out and vet to see what's been completed and what hasn't completed based off of that current version of the overall plan.
Yeah, and I think some of the things that I recall from that modification had to do with like stone wall or, a tree that wasn't there anymore or something like that. It wasn't
It wasn't extensive. It was more of just trying to put a put a process in place, which is what is happening now. Okay. If there's nothing else, any other comments from commissioners, I said my opening spiel, I like to give the applicant opportunity. Russ, do you have anything else that you want to go over for us?
I'm not really sure what I can say at this point. I wanted to try to implement this modification, but it doesn't seem as though that's palatable.
All right. Thanks for your comment. All right. What is the process, Anne, for deciding whether we want to make a motion to extend or make a motion to hold the surety? Is that done during the public hearing? Is that done during the regular meeting?
You would vote to close the public hearing. Then you would discuss among yourselves, just like any other public hearing item, what your motion would be, and similar discussion and then voting.
All right, would the commissioner want to make a motion to close the public hearing on this item if they feel like it is the time to do that?
So moved.
Mr. Johnson, thank you. Do I
I
have a
will-
second? Second from Roger Joyce. All right. Any discussion? We have a motion and a second to close the public hearing and discussion. We'll go roll call vote. Larry Rizzolo.
Yes.
Yes to close. Roger Joyce.
Yes.
Kevin Clark.
Yes.
Ted Sands.
Yes.
Bill Freeman.
Yes.
Philip Johnson.
Yes.
And I will also vote yes to close the public hearing on this item. We'll move straight into seeking to come up with a decision on this item. I think we've heard opinions, pretty strong opinions from Bill, Ted, and Phil. We still have Roger, Larry, and Kevin seated in addition to myself. Does any other feelings in terms of which way you want to go tonight?
I could share some thoughts, Scott.
Thanks, Roger.
Obviously I'm a new guy in the block and haven't any history to rely on, but what I'm hearing, especially from both the neighbors and association homeowners, paints a pretty dire picture, I think, of the management of this site and the lack of progress to deal with these issues. And I think the right answer is to take control of the situation, pull a bond, and let's go through our process as a town to fulfill these obligations.
Thanks, Roger. Kevin or Larry, any? Yes, Larry.
Yeah, Larry Rizzolo. I agree with all the comments that have been made thus far.
Thanks, Larry. Kevin, anything you want to add?
I would just say that with my apologies to Ann and town staff who have to handle this. I know their plate is already full, but I think it's time to call the bond.
So with that, going forward, the other thing I'd like to note is, it looks like we're going a certain direction here. Just a general comment, we have, as the planning and zoning, have been trying to clamp down on, I think a word that was floated way earlier in tonight's was the word loopholes. That is the whole reason why we did the regulation update last year, which was a very heavy lift. It's the whole reason why Ann is going through these text amendments that you had to sit through. Thank you for your patience on that, by the way, to make sure that we don't have anything like that, and to make sure that the public confidence in what planning and zoning is doing in their town is doing everything that we can to make sure that things are done in a transparent and in a process. And so, one thing, for example, is one of the stipulations that we've added to special permits is there's a time limit where if you don't do anything on your project for, I think, Ann, it's 5 years. Is that right? If you don't do anything in your project for 5 years, then you have to come back and re-up your special permit. So, that's just a quick example of things that we try to hear the public comment on things, and we've tried to make adjustments to the regs that might not be enough for folks that have been struggling with this for 15 years. But I just want to try to put it out there that you're heard, and we're trying to do the best we can for you guys. So that being said, would anyone like to make a motion related to the surety for Benton's Knoll?
That would be the B.
Yes, that would be the B.
The Town of Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission directs the Office of Planning and Zoning to utilize the remaining financial surety attributable to 20 Benton's Knoll LLC to hire a site contractor to complete the landscape planting as shown on the original special permit for the development. Minor adjustments may be made to the plans as necessary to complete the project with the given budget of $50,000, to adjust for plantings that have already been completed, and to respond to existing site conditions. Project work shall be overseen by town planner Ann Hartgen or similarly qualified town staff.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
Oh, geez, you guys were literally at the same time. You're
Give
just
it to
very
Ted.
excited. We'll give it to Ted. Ted's got the second. All right, any other discussion? I think we've done a fair amount of discussion on this one, so we'll move to the roll call vote. This is a vote to pull the Surrey for Benton's Knoll. Larry Rizzolo,
Yes.
Roger Joyce,
Yes.
Kevin Clark,
Yes.
Ted Sands,
Yes.
Bill Freeman,
Yes.
Philip Johnson,
Yes.
and I'll also vote yes. Thank you for everyone's time tonight. Thank you for your patience. And we will continue to check in on this during our meetings if you want to poke into more of these meetings. But thank you for your time, everyone.
Okay,
We-
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Ann?
We are going to skip over item number 5, the coastal for 405 Whitfield at the
Yep.
request of the applicant. Our other business, I wanted to give you an update on 1486 Boston Post Road. This is the Dunkin' Donuts that has been operating illegally since the beginning of the year. Frank has, well, just to refresh everybody's memory, at the last meeting, the Planning and Zoning Commission requested that I begin to levy daily fines for the zoning violations in the order of $150 a day, as allowed by town ordinance. It took me some time just because of the run of business to start doing that, but I started doing that at the beginning of last week. In the meantime, well, actually, let me back up. Mr. Frank had contacted me after the planning and zoning meeting. He said he was committed to posting a letter of credit. He would have it to me in a week. And I said, fine, I will withhold levying fines as long as you have it to me in a week. A week passed. He still didn't have the letter of credit. He came back and said, I'm changing banks for my letter of credit. And I said, okay, I'll give you another week. Another week passed. He still didn't have the letter of credit. So that's when I started levying the fines. He came back in an email today and said that he is willing to post, the bond amount is somewhere in the neighborhood of $310,000 for the unfinished work. He came back today and said he could post $200,000 of that. And I said, no, that's not appropriate. You have to post the entire amount in whatever, form that you want to do. It can be cash, it can be a letter of credit, it can be a surety. He said, yet again, and I'm beginning to not believe him, that he would have either the full cash amount or the letter of credit to me by the end of next week. In the meantime, I am daily levying fines via a letter to him, explaining his zoning violation and requesting the $150. He has paid 1 week's worth of fines. He brought that check in today, but those letters will continue per your direction until the situation resolves itself.
Yep.
Does anybody have any questions?
I have a
My read
question.
on the, yeah, go ahead. Bob.
I don't know even what you all are talking about. Did this all transpire last meeting or something?
Yes.
Well, it's been ongoing, but it was discussed in the last meeting. Yeah.
Could you just give me a 3-minute top line on what we're?
Oh, okay. So, and again, yeah, this is a long, long story, but I'll try to be as short as possible. Frank was building his Dunkin' Donuts. At the last week of the end of last year, he marched into the office on a day I was on vacation and demanded to have a C of O for his project because he had to open, for whatever reason, the Dunkin' Donuts. As you may recall, he came in last fall with a modification to his special permit, which included changes to parking and circulation and the little apartment building he was doing. I wasn't in the office. The town planner has to sign off on C of Os before they are issued. I believe Kim, our building official, may have also not been in the office. So Frank went to Matt Hoey and said, I need a C of O. And Matt said on the record to Frank that he would sign off on the C of O. So Frank opened the Dunkin' Donuts as of January 1. When I came back to the office that week, I heard what had happened. I reminded the first selectman that it's illegal for him to sign off on C of Os, that only the town planner and the building official can do so. And I let Frank know that he was now operating illegally and in violation of his approvals and the zoning ordinance. We spent January going back and forth. Frank giving me all kinds of assurances that he would post a bond for the outstanding work. So half the site essentially is not done, half the site work. He kept saying he would fix it. Finally, mid-January, I had enough and I issued a cease and desist letter, which Frank then promptly ignored. I was sick and I was going to bring this issue to the commission in February. I got a cold, so I wasn't there, so we didn't talk about it. So we talked about this issue at the last meeting. There is a provision under the town ordinance that the Planning and Zoning Commission may, at their discretion, levy fines of up to $150 a day for any ongoing zoning violations. And so the commission at that last meeting requested that I begin to levy the fines. Frank is able to get a conditional C of O, conditional letter of zoning compliance, and a temporary C of O that is only good for 180 days once he has posted the bond for the total amount of the work to be completed. And that's the $310,000 that I spoke of earlier. So he provided me estimates of the outstanding work. I looked at it. We made some adjustments. We added some interior fit outs to the number. And for the past month or so, he keeps telling me he's going to have the letter of credit. And I still don't have it in hand. He's still operating illegally. Under the zoning regs, we cannot issue the conditional letter of zoning compliance or the conditional or temporary C of O until the bond is posted. So that's what we're waiting for.
Thank you.
One reaction I have, Ian, thank you for that blow by blow of what's been going.
Well done.
My reaction.
Glad we didn't get the long version.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's complicated. Welcome to my life.
My reaction at the last meeting, a month ago, was I was surprised and shocked at the status of this non-compliance. Just knowing that, I don't know Frank, but just knowing that he was a former commissioner and he obviously knows the rules and he's not abiding by them is of great concern. We are 3 months since he opened on his own, if you want to look at it that way. And I am not sensing that he's giving us a good faith effort here to do what he has to do to get the conditional C of O. At what, I guess I'd have to just raise maybe hopefully a hypothetical question. At what point do we call him on this more seriously than the fining? Because I don't think that's much of a incentive for him to do what he has to. So I guess just for discussion, what might the next step be here for the town to take to make this happen?
I spoke with our on-call land use attorney about this because we had the same questions last month, I think. And we said, I can't remember who said it, he makes $150 in 5 minutes. So what is, yeah, what is this going to mean to him? Absolutely nothing. Chuck advised me that our next step, because I said, you know, how do we enforce the cease and desist so it has some real meat? So his point was that our next step would be to go to court and seek an injunction. We could seek a temporary injunction, and then there would be a whole series of hearings. The long and the short of it is it's complicated, but there is a process for it. He suggested that we also take a look at whether there are health code violations, given that the Dunkin' Donuts is operating without a C of O. But that the next step is going to court and seeking an injunction, and then the lawyers get involved and somebody has to pay the lawyers. So that's part of what
It's
gives
ve-
us pause,
yeah,
because the
it's-
town ends up on the hook for that. If
So it's
we're
very
not-
much a 0 to 60 with nothing in between scenario.
Are we able to adjust the $150 amount with amongst our
It's-
board?
Yeah, it's town ordinance, so no, you'd have to actually change the town ordinance and change the fee for the citations. I would suggest at some point that we circle back and do that, because $150 a day may be nothing to a big developer. So we need something with a little more teeth, but there is a whole process to go back to the Board of Selectmen and change that.
So at $150 a day, just to get to the point where his bond is equal, is 2,000 days. A week, excuse me,
Yeah.
or a day, I'm
Um,
sorry.
Of course, based off of, again, the fact that we're trying to supplement some staffing for Ann, that going back and looking at the fee structure is definitely something that we should put on the list.
In
to
the
do, but
future, I
it's
just didn't know if there was a
probably-
mechanism now.
No, not now.
Can the town recoup their lawyers' fees in a potential settlement?
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
But we
there's a
pay
lot
up
of ifs
front.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we pay up front,
Right.
whether we win or not, right? And Chuck is great, but Chuck is not cheap.
So, I mean, I've been on these emails too, and you know, again, I have not been a part of all these phone calls and conversations that Ann has directly with Frank. So I don't want to speak to that or anything like that, but
Yeah, but come on,
he's-
Scott, you know
so the-
Frank. I mean, what's going on here?
right. I mean,
Yeah,
my read on
my-
the bond was that he could get a 200K bond easily, but getting a 300 and however much the number is bond is more difficult for him. And so he was trying to get a $200 bond and see if that would work. I'm totally fine with Ann just turning around and saying no, like that's the rules. So it is what it is. My read wasn't necessarily that he was trying to pull a fast one. It was just that that was the quickest and easiest thing that he could do. And so he was going to try it.
So-
What's happening is it's been determined that in order for him to get the temp CO, Ann explained, all he needs right now is a bond and he can get the temp CO. The real
And then
question is, how are we getting how are we getting an actual CO? And he is
Can I-
creating an application to fix that part. And go ahead, Ann.
Yeah, if I may, the actual bond amount that he needs to post, just so everybody knows, is $313,798.15.
Right.
If and when he posts that, he only has 180 days to complete the rest of the site work. If he has no intention of completing the site work, which is what it appears to me, he needs to come back to the commission for modification of his original special permit so that he takes, say, the apartment building out of the plan or something like that. You know, he could have
Which
done that yesterday. He could have done it last
Right.
month.
He has
still
indicated that he's got attorney's Chansky working on that modification application, but we haven't seen it yet. It hasn't come in.
Yeah,
Does
I'll
does
believe
that
it when I
bond
see it.
include finishing the apartment building? Is that what's holding it up?
And you had that bond include the fit out, right?
It includes everything. It's
Yeah.
the
Well, what's the
site work, the
timeline?
plumbing, the electrical, the chain link, the landscaping, the finishing of the small apartment building. He would he would have, by our zoning regs, he has 180 days to complete the work after the surety is posted. If he doesn't complete the work in that time or seek a modification in that time, we are back to this question of pulling the bond and completing the work ourselves.
So in order to have him forestall building the apartment building for a while and just grassing it over or whatever, he has to come back and get a modification to a special permit?
Correct.
Yes.
Why the hell he didn't do that then?
Well,
So
I will say that it probably should have been, it was thrown in there as part of the conversation in a special permit without much thought, and folks probably should have thought about it a little bit more before he put in an application, especially if he never planned. I think he even said during the special permit discussions that he planned on doing that building later. And it just it didn't tip anybody off that was going to cause an issue with CO. So that was just something that was just kind of missed, I think, during the special permit process. It doesn't matter now, we are where we are. But certainly something that we can have as a lesson learned for the commission on future applications like that. Like if there's even a whisper of something not happening all at one time, then you need to stipulate how you're going to get CO on certain parcels. If it's, I don't know, Anna, would you have to put in like a phasing plan or
Yeah,
something?
he should have phased his approval so that he had
Right.
a first phase that closes out. And then if he wanted approval for the whole site, he could have put in a separate application for the second phase. There was nothing that forced him to put that small apartment building or anything on the plan if he wasn't intending to do it. He shot himself in the foot with that one.
So if it hadn't been a
So-
special permit, it would have been typical 5 years to finish and then maybe 5 more years if you get approval to.
No, but he would have never gotten a C of O because the work, even if it was just a straight up site plan approval, if all the work isn't completed, I can't sign off on it. So he would have needed under regular site plan approval to say, I'm doing this piece now. This is a final site. It's finished. The grades are done. The landscape's installed. The final topping coat is on. The stormwater basins are planted. And then I have an intention of coming back for phase 2, but phase 1 would need to stand on its own in terms of a project. That's regardless of whether it's a special permit or not.
So if I might jump in, last time, my recollection, and people correct me, was that we weren't going to initiate the cease and desist because he had never been given some sort of deadline. And we decided, therefore, we would start the $150 fine. And so March 1, I'm sorry, in this April meeting, if things weren't accomplished to our satisfaction, that we would initiate the process of the cease and desist. Does that comport with other people's recollection?
Well, the cease and desist was already issued.
Yeah, but
are
the
you talking
permanent
about
course.
are you talking about the court, like going to court? What would you call it?
Yes.
Ann?
It's an injunction, yes.
the
We did
injunction.
discuss that at the last meeting, that
Yeah.
if he
Right.
wasn't done by this meeting, that the commission would discuss further steps.
My recollection.
Is that
Let me ask a question, Ann. If he came back and said, I want to modify the special permit to take the small apartment building out, and I'm just going to finish the rest of that area as grass or gravel or however he wants to do it. And if I want to build the apartment building later, I'll come back and ask you about it. Would that, if we approve that modification, would he then get his CO?
Yes, he could, but the quicker way of doing it is to post his bond so he can get at least something now that makes sure he's operating legally, because
temporary CO?
he is operating illegally, and I don't have plans. I don't expect to see a set of application plans on Friday when our next deadline is. I've heard the story that he's working on it, but I have I haven't heard anything from Marjorie, and usually she gives me a heads up if she is submitting an application.
Thank you for the update.
So
Yeah.
if we were to initiate going to court, and that's a process that's going to take time, if he came forward with the bond, we could terminate that process.
Yes.
So in a way, it's a way of saying, Frank, let's get real. And
Yeah, but again, back to the point, as soon as you start the process, you're going to run up some major bills very quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't, just so everybody knows, we don't have a line item in my departmental budget to cover legal fees, and I'm not really sure if it's initiated, I mean, ostensibly, if it's initiated by the commission, it should come out of my budget. I don't have a line item for it. I'd have to go to Matt and ask for that money. Now, that shouldn't stop you, but I'm just telling you the reality.
I have a question. Are we in a odd position because somebody that didn't have the authority to do this did it, and then the person that they did it for acted on that, sort of an estoppel type thing, and then where are we? I mean, it doesn't sound like we're in very good stead at this point, given the circumstances.
Yeah, the town isn't in a good stead because we, as the town, also acted illegally.
Yeah, and it's pretty clear versus other situations that I've been involved in where it was unclear that it was an estoppel type.
Yeah, I think in answer to Larry's question basically is I wouldn't feel comfortable deciding whether or not we wanted to move forward with an injunction until I've had some more time to meet with Anne and discuss all the ramifications of that. So I mean, if we get to another month from I'd be willing to say that if we get into another month from now and I've had a chance to go through all the ramifications of it, then maybe we have that discussion about an injunction next meeting if there hasn't been significant change.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I think we wait. I mean, apparently he's having trouble posting the bond.
I think in general, that site ended up being a bigger snake mess than was ever anticipated. So
Right.
I don't wish him ill will. I just think we need to keep on it.
Yeah, but it seems to me that if he can't post the bond, then the solution is to come in and modify the special permit to take
He still needs to do both, really. He still needs to do both.
Yeah.
There are
The
things
bond-
outside of that.
The bond fixes the short-term problem, and then he needs the modification to fix the long-term problem.
Because if he doesn't have the money to post the financial bond, chances are he doesn't have the money for a lawsuit either. To fight a lawsuit.
Again,
I'm just speculating, but still.
On the other hand, Donald Trump has set a
Yeah.
precedent for getting bonds reduced.
Scott, I say we move on this one.
yeah. What else do we have to go? Anne, do you feel like we've thoroughly discussed this and we're ready to move on?
I think
So-
we agreed to move on.
To be clear, we're going to wait another month. I'm going to keep issuing daily fines until I get my letter of credit or a cash bond, and I will stop issuing daily fines once hopefully that action happens. If it doesn't, at the next meeting, we will discuss moving forward with an injunction. Do I understand everybody correctly?
Correct.
Yep.
Okay, beautiful.
And you might tell Frank that we're seriously considering an injunction.
Yeah. Okay, good. Our next item is the annual election of officers, and I have somewhere, hold on, give me a second, a piece of paper. I don't have it, I'm sorry. I had some folks send me some ideas for nominations. I know Ted had a series of ideas, and then I'm sorry, I can't remember who else did, but somebody else had a competing series of ideas. So I would just ask you to, on the record, make some nominations or discuss among yourselves and figure out how you want to move forward with the election of officers. I would say we still have the secretary and the bylaws. The secretary essentially does nothing. So it's all glory and no work. So if you want to be if you want to be the secretary of the Planning and Zoning Commission, feel free to nominate yourself.
Well,
In fact, the secretary isn't even here.
For the sake of moving things forward, I would like to propose a slate of Scott as the chairman, Sean Cosgrove as vice chairman, and Roger Joyce as secretary.
Do we want to go with that as a motion, or is there others that have different opinions that we want to discuss before we go to a
Well,
motion?
you could put it forward, and if it goes down, then
Yeah, that's fine.
I'll second that.
We can go with a second then. Discussion.
Are
think-
alternates voting?
Nope, we're in the regular meeting, so it's only seated, but
Okay.
that does count you, Larry. So you're
Okay.
good there. I will say one thing, and I kind of Phil touched on this through his nominations, but typically we do try to get, not that political party, we try to keep political party out of this arena as much as possible. And I feel like we've done a really good job of that for as long as I've been on the commission, of having parity and everybody kind of working together here. But still, just for the sake of tradition and for outside expectations, we do try to slate at least one of each party in the slate for officers, and so that's part of what any other thoughts?
I don't know what anybody's parties are.
I
Neither
think
do I.
that slate covers it because there's only two parties represented on this committee, so.
Well, technically, Ted, you're
I
independent,
think there are
right?
3. Yeah.
But no, there's no R's.
Oh,
There's
no.
no R's.
Yeah,
there you
there are, aren't there?
Nope.
No?
Frank was
Okay.
the last one.
Okay. Anyway, so we have a motion and a second. I guess we'll go through roll call. Larry Rizzola,
I approve the slate.
Roger,
Yes.
Kevin Clark,
Yes.
Ed Sands,
Sure.
Bill Freeman.
Did we nominate Sean by the fact that he's not here and can't say no, or what's the
That's
state?
Correct.
Pretty much.
Okay,
Yeah.
yes, then I'm all for it.
He
Phil
was warned about
Johnson.
that last meeting, Bill. If
Yes.
you don't show up, you're getting nominated.
That's if you don't show up, you're gonna get work.
I mean, yeah, vice chair obviously doesn't have as much duties either, really,
Nothing.
but that's fine.
Yeah, unless you give it to him and go on
He
a
has
lot
the
of
chance.
vacations.
He has the chance of work to do.
You
So
can go on a
there
lot
we
of
go.
vacations.
All right. For the record, I also vote yes. So thank you everyone for that vote. I appreciate it. I think let's continue to make this
I just
a positive experience for everyone.
Scott, you've been a wonderful chairman in the last 12 months.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Great job.
I agree.
Some
All
tough.
right.
I found a blip in our schedule.
Oh, geez. Okay.
The October 2nd meeting is the first day or the day of Rosh Hashanah. My Jewish friends tell me that is not a good time to have a meeting, so I would suggest that we vote to change our October meeting to October 9th and also adjust the application deadline accordingly to October 11th for the next month. It will mean that the applications have less time for review in October, but there's nothing to be done there. I think we should move the meeting.
So
Your
it's
motion.
off by 1 week.
And can I ask a question? Have you also checked other religious holidays such as Ramadan, for example?
Yes, I rechecked everything. I believe we are clear on everything else.
Great.
All right, do I hear a motion for Ann's proposal?
So moved.
Thank you,
Second.
Bill. Second from Phil. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I got everyone unanimous. Thank you. We got new minutes, Ann?
Yep, I know,
Um,
Ted, you were sending me, I haven't gotten back to my email, but you sent me some corrections
Yeah.
to the minutes.
That is correct.
You want to just paraphrase real quick, Ted? Or they just bookkeeping things of
They were, these are all minor corrections, things like describing Janet Plesiak as the town planner instead of the town engineer and things like that.
okay, great.
I did,
Uh,
it's one thing. We list the draft minutes list Larry as a member and also as an alternate. We only have one Larry with us, so we should, and you are the alternate, Larry, yes, so.
Yeah, that's good because I don't want the pressure of being a regular. So.
Pressure's off.
all right. Based off of those adjustments that Ann will make, do I have a motion to approve minutes?
So moved.
So
Thank you,
moved.
Ted. Is second from Bill is what I heard. Is that right? All right. Let's see here. Larry Zolo,
Yes.
Roger Joyce,
Yes.
Kevin Clark,
Yes.
Ted Sands,
Yes.
Bill Freeman,
Yes.
Philip Johnson.
Yes.
And I also vote yes. All right. Anything else, Ann, that we need to go over?
Nope, I think that's enough for tonight.
Motion to adjourn.
We hit 10 o'clock on the dot. Good
Second.
job, everybody. We got a
Right.
motion from Phil and a second from Bill, and all in favor, please say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
All right.